Yeah, we're back. It is Modern Relics Podcast. I'm Angel, he's Lucky, and there's Paul. Paul's back. Welcome back, friend of the podcast. Paul, what's up, dude?
What's up?
Thanks for coming back in.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Paul's going to lead us today in a couple of topics, but Lucky, what's been going on, man? We've been missing in action, and this time it's my fault.
No, it was only your fault 1 week, so the other one was mine. But welcome, Paul. We love having you, buddy. It's good to always see your face. And you are going to be a very blessed addition to us today, and I'm looking forward to it. But my week, well, first and foremost, the reasons why we were MIA for the last 2 weeks was you've had some life adjustment stuff going on. And then, but the previous week was
I'm transitioning. No, I'm just kidding. Just some life transitions. That's all.
Yeah. My wife is running for precinct committeeman for our particular precinct for our local Republican Party. And it has gotten probably the ugliest I've ever seen in this area. And that's saying something, because it gets pretty ugly come election cycles around here, and it gets pretty brutal. But this one, the vitriol and mudslinging and lies and accusations and has been off the charts. Yeah. And everything from the grassroots PC level all the way through the county levels and the statewide races. We've had a lot of Venn diagrams kind of breaking up and reforming in other areas as far as allegiances and alliances. And right now we're kind of in a place where Aaron and kind of our friends like Stephanie Fetzer and stuff, we've all kind of been trying to saddle up alongside our local Republican group, which is called the KCRCC, and help them along the way, because we really believed in their mission statement as far as what they were to provide for our county and for our state. But over the course of the last, I'd say 3 years specifically, but it kind of branched a little further than that. But more specifically in the last 3 years, we've come to the realization that they do not have the best interest of the community. And I'm not saying the entirety of the KCRCC. There's a lot of good people in there. I'm saying that there's a group that kind of controls the KCRCC, the leadership group and stuff. All of the leadership and a handful of supporters that are in there that steer the ship have been corrupted, and they've been corrupted to the point where all they care about is keeping their control vectors instead of actually understanding their role as being the most grassroots reachable community member of a servant level representative, somebody who is in your neighborhood, who is supposed to represent your neighborhood and bring your ideas from that neighborhood and your thoughts and your words and relay them to this committee, so that that committee can then relay those ideas, vote on them, and then bring them down to the state level to create policy. That's the point of this, and they have lost sight of it. And so we've been pretty vocal about that, especially in the last year or two, that something's got to change. We tried to reach out to these people. We tried to reason with them. We tried to argue with them. We tried to fight with them. And finally, we got to the point where we're going to just do what they've been accusing us of doing for so long, which is trying to take over the KCRCC, which was never on the table until they kind of forced it. And we're like, fine, if that's what we have to do in order for you not to tear this institution to the ground with your reputation, that's fine. Then that's what we're going to have to do. So it's been really contentious, and one of the weeks, the meetings are unfortunately land on every fourth Tuesday of the month. So normally my wife goes down there and she gets dirty looks or whatever. Half the room loves her, the other half hates her. And it's fairly fun to listen to all the drama that happened, you know, who said what and who yelled at her or whatever. But it's gotten to the point where I felt the need to be there the last 2 times for the sake of her and Stephanie's safety, as I feel that they would have actually been accosted. Now, because of the tattoos and because I have resting bitch face, and because of my size and stature, and the fact that the vast majority of the room, the average median age is 68 or some nonsense, right?
Yeah.
I'm terrifying to them. They still believe I have some type of criminal history or something. So me just being in the room shuts them up.
You wear your Fed hat just in case, or
I wear my Lucky Barnard is a psyop hat.
Nice.
Just to mess with them a little bit.
Poke at them a little bit.
Yeah. And the week before, it was okay. They just shut up and they didn't approach her or approach them and left them alone. This week was the last meeting before the election. So I knew the tensions were super high, and I knew that there were some people who were going to be coming after them. So I brought me and my daughter's boyfriend and 2 of the security guys from church to come down, and we just stood in the back, and it made a scene. They were not happy because they definitely had some stuff that they needed to say, and had we not been there, they would have been accosted.
Wow.
It would have gotten ugly. So the reason why we were there was exactly for the reason why we should have been there. And it was pretty brutal. Brent Regan, the chair, who is the main problem, has decided to, and I'm going to be careful with how I word this. He is stretching or possibly breaking bylaws and going against what the Secretary of State has said, to take the legal defense fund from the KCRCC's committee and switch it over to a new shell pack that he created called the Kootenai Freedom Caucus, which is hilarious because it's KFC, and lied about. They opened up the whole thing saying that
I bet their barbecues are great, though. Finger looking good, perhaps.
Literally opened up the meeting first thing and used them by name while they're sitting in the room, and said that they have been lying and defaming the KCRCC. Therefore, we're moving the defense fund, the legal defense fund, and pushing it over to this other pack that we've been saying that they've been using to get around certain rules. And we're going to give it to them so that they can sue us for defamation. And it's not just us, there's a couple of other people, Matt Blatt and a couple of other people that are involved in this, because we discovered that a lot of their accounts were connected, and they did not like that they got exposed. So instead, and we never said that the KCRCC did it, but they are trying to scare us into backing down. And so we're like, fine, let's go into discovery. If that's what you want to do, we'll get to see who's behind the curtain, and we'll get a full forensics.
And as long as you're
on the
asking questions about it, that's not defamation.
Correct. And also, we weren't defaming the KCRCC. In fact, we never even brought them up. But by doing what they did, they inadvertently admitted to the connection of the 2 packs.
And if you can pierce the veil on that, that's all you need.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's gotten pretty crazy. Aaron's been walking the precinct and all the neighborhoods and knocking on doors and talking to people, and it's been going really, really well. I would expect that she's going to win. The other guy has put no effort in, and and she just has the notoriety around here. She has the name, and she's doing really well. We're actually really looking forward to what the new leadership will look like. We're looking forward to what the new direction of the KCRCC and how it's managed and how it's how it then relates to the community instead, where up until this point it didn't. And in fact, they try to play word games of whether or not the people are even elected, because it doesn't go to the general, it just everyone gets elected in the primary. And they're like, well, then that's not a real election, we're not really representatives. I was like, well, then what are you saying, that you're just an Elks Lodge, a
Right.
Republican Elks Lodge? Why was the NIR takeover even a threat if you get to pick who gets to be on this committee? No, you pay, the taxpayers pay for you to be on a ballot in May for the primary. And yeah, sure, people don't, whoever wins that doesn't go on to the November general election, but because there's nobody contending it.
Right.
There's no Democrats that contend for Republican seats. These are strictly Republican seats. But you use a county building and you don't pay for it. You have to let the public in. You absolutely,
Which you routinely try not to do.
right. You absolutely use taxpayer funds to be put on a ballot, and the people vote for you. So therefore, yes, you are an elected official, and yes, you are sitting. You take a seat once you win. I don't care if you go to November. There's no Democrat to contend it. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
So, and if that wasn't the case, then why are you worried about us? Why are you worried about NIR like winning? Why can't you just pick who gets to be on there, pick all your friends, and just say, we're the Republican Central Committee, and that's how it is? Because then you won't have anyone who will trust you. Or so they want to play both sides of the fence. They are not a private entity, as Brent would like to say. They are a public entity. And it is something that they like to try to walk the fence on. And so that way, whatever he's like, no, we're part of you. We're representative of the people, and you vote for us to be here. So we're the perfect representation of the pool of people in the Kootenai County area. And so he uses it to try to get his advantage on that side. But then when people go, okay, well, we're asking you as the people to stop doing what you're doing,
Suddenly he's a private organization and you're not invited. Yeah,
exactly. And so
I think that for a two-edged sword for your wife, as she's door knocking and meeting people in the precinct, she should grab an email address and be like, hey, if you want to learn about me and what's broader going on at all these meetings, I do a newsletter, and like I subscribe to it, and I'm not there, and I think it's wonderful, and I follow along quite a bit whenever I get her updates, and then build her reading community at the same time, and be like, there's many ways you can reach out to me in real time to get your point across, especially when it comes to the community. If you want to learn more about me, here's my, please let me send you my newsletter. Like,
she's finding that she's knocking at doors that a lot of people already do.
Yeah, which is great.
So they're like, oh yeah, we already subscribe to your newsletter. So like,
great.
It's something that like is, and it's all on her literature. So she made beautiful literature. She's an incredible graphic designer. She took some classes years ago when she was working for a PR company.
Yeah.
She's really good at it. She can put together a flyer that is not convoluted, not too wordy, not too picturey. It's right in the middle. It draws the eyes in. She knows what color combos to use. She knows all of the science behind it, and they come out beautiful. In fact, so much so that all of the other PCs that we're helping, she's made all of their material for them.
Nice.
So like all of their door hangers, all of their mailers, all of their handout cards, all of their signs, she's made all of them. And so, and all of their walk lists. So a lot of them don't know what they're doing. She does. She's been doing, walking for PCs for years. And she's a human Excel spreadsheet. So like, she basically puts together all of their walk lists for them and go, here's all the Republicans in your precinct, but here's all the ones that voted in primaries. The other ones did not. Now you can go to those ones, but these ones are the ones you want to target the most, because these are the ones that are actually going to go vote for you. The other ones, those are all gravy on top of it. If you want to go and actually have conversations with these people and kind of get them excited to go vote for a primary, that's up to you. But here's your primary, and she made walk lists of how to establish a thorough route through all of that and gave them to all of the different people in the dozens. She's done this in the dozens. And so she's done it for everybody so that they all have the same advantage that she has, and has put all that work in. So like, it would be an absolute disservice of the KCRCC to not utilize her skill sets. It is insane what this woman is capable of doing, and how organized she would be. If not put into a secretary position, she needs to be on certain committees. She needs to be probably within their PR. She would be such a massive asset to this to the KCRCC that it's not even acceptable to say otherwise. Like, anybody who even hates her would recognize that her skill sets would be a boon to the
value add. Yeah,
absolutely.
I actually scare the shit out of my precinct committeeman here, because I get people that knock on the door all the time, and it says everywhere that you can see and read no soliciting, and they do it anyway. And I thought it was another solicitor, but it was, you know, once you register to vote and then you cast a vote, they come check in on you and make sure things are cool. So here comes this dude who's clearly been yelled at a lot all day. And I just think it's another salesperson. You know what I mean? So the game that I started playing was I would like basically tell them that I can't hear them very well. And I would like take a little space to like a really uncomfortable degree, and they would start to back up. And so I would just continue to take space. And suddenly we're like nearly in the middle of the driveway, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what was that? And I would just keep creeping a little bit, and I'd get real close to his face. Now he knows I'm on the same team and he needs my vote and he wants to make sure things are cool, but I don't give it to him for free. Like, they're like, God, not that guy. I hate that house. He's so fucking weird. But I just keep on keeping on, and now I'm that guy. It's great. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, make sure she has someone walking with her is the moral of the story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Outside of that, I might be heading down to your neck of the woods relatively soon. Yeah. And mainly down to the Havasu area. My grandmother, my last remaining grandparent, she's 88 years old, and she is this dancing, spicy little desert rat out there. And she is a hilariously spunky old lady who hates the community centers because they're full of old people. So she goes dancing on like Thursday nights, and then on every other, like 1 week in a month, she goes on a road trip to Big Bear to go hang out with the ladies. That level of spunk, right? And she's super fun. And I've since June of 2 years ago, we're coming up on 2 years ago, is when I reconnected with her after like 40 years. Like I spent my 5th birthday with her, and then I spent my 46th birthday with her. I've really reconnected, and a lot of times when I go down to Vegas to stay with you, I'll make a trip down to Havasu to go see my grandmother and hang out with my grandmother. And because it's like a 2.5 hour drive, so it's pretty easy, and I'll stay the night and come back up or whatever. But she apparently, I found out on Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere around there, that she had a surgery for a potential cancerous polyp on her kidney, and they nicked her colon, and it started spilling into her guts apparently, and she went septic, and they had to rush her to the hospital, and they had to open her up pretty badly. And for a tiny, I mean, she's like 4'11" and maybe like 75 pounds. She's tiny. Yeah. And they had to take her spleen and part of her colon, and then start like the next day scrape out her guts of all the sepsis.
It really is like a Brillo pad and a rinsing station. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's awake, but she's in a lot of pain. She's in ICU. She's not really taking a lot of visitors. Apparently 2 of her brothers came down who live locally, and she got so irritated she kicked them out. But we're just kind of keeping updates on her and trying to figure out what's going on. Outside of that, I plan to possibly go down there. It really depends. Either I'm going down there for a funeral,
Yeah.
or I'm going down there to go relieve my aunt and uncle who've been taking care of the situation, because they'll need a break. So me and Aaron will go down there and kind of take care of that. I may spend a couple more days down there after that to maybe tattoo a few people who've been asking. But outside of that, yeah, that's kind of, I'm up. It's up in the air right now. I'm waiting for updates, but she seems to be doing okay. She's just in a lot of pain, and honestly, she's not real stoked to stick around, even though she was before all this. But her husband Leon passed like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And she's been pretty lonely, so she's been asking to go see him, and so it's one of those things where I don't want to let go, because I just started this relationship with her.
Yeah.
And I know my family doesn't want that either, because she's still got a ton of life left in her. But she is 88, and when people decide, they decide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to, last time I saw her, to give her some paintings I did for her that meant, that was kind of connection paintings between us. I painted stuff for her birthday, and I got to see her on her birthday. So that was cool. But I would like a little bit more time with her if I can. But we'll see. We'll see what God has in store for that, and we'll see, if what direction the prayer chain is taking her path.
Yeah.
So, but
Thoughts and prayers, man.
yeah. How about you? How was your week? Now that I've dominated that.
Oh, stress free as usual. Yeah.
Are you getting sleep?
Not really. A couple weeks ago, this is my part of why we've been away for a little while. Where I work over at Redacted decided that they would break a covenant they made with me almost 5 years ago on reclassifying my job as a remote enabled employee. And I haven't had a good career there. I've had a great to excellent career there. So there's nothing to do with performance related, but they decided, you know what, we're going to expand our corporate office and mandate that everyone whose division has been relocated to the expanded office must choose between taking a severance and walking away from their career or moving to a place that's across the country from where most of us live on the West Coast. And it's pretty excruciating because there's an awful lot of roots that I would have to dig up, and I only have essentially what is now 2 weeks to decide that. At which point I would either turn up at the new office that they denote the location of, or forfeit my job at the beginning of November. And I have been wildly aggressive at looking at alternative employment options, seeing that for AI and other reasons, there may be a need to switch careers, and there's no jobs anywhere. Over 400 applications in a year and a half, and 0 callbacks. So I've been bouncing off the walls because I don't really want to give up everything that I've spent a lifetime building to get to the point that I'm at, just to retain employment over at Redacted. But stepping into the void is to be brutally honest, is terrifying. It's a terrifying prospect in 2026. And so there is one glimmer of hope in that a conversation led to a conversation about a company that seems very interested in bringing me on board, knowing what they know. But the ball's in their court. So there's been some positive momentum communication on that front. And if it materializes into a new career path, it is one that I will instantaneously take. But as I said, we're 14 days and counting on a decision. And it would foundationally destroy my way of life by having to stay with them if I don't have any alternatives, versus apply to 400 more jobs and maybe I get a call back in the next year and a half. But at that point you start bleeding in the red, and I don't want to lose my home. So yeah, it's a really difficult decision. And when you live alone, you're kind of left to your own devices, and I overthink everything anyway, so it's very difficult for me to not break every possible scenario down to a molecular level and then reconstruct it as a possible outcome. And what that does is it destroys your self-confidence, it cripples your health, it destroys your ability to sleep. You can't think straight, and it has become an unknown to the highest possible priority of things you need to deal with because of inevitability. And that is my income. So yeah, that's why I bounced out of last week's pod, because my life has been lit on fire. So yeah, it's not a good time, I'll say that much. But at the end of the day, I have made enough decisions about my future from years ago that I'm not going to be like destitute. I can figure out something. It's just a wild amount of effort, and I have to undock a lot of things that I have been working toward for many years with purpose, because at one point I actually could see myself retiring from Redacted. But since the new chief executive took over in late 2024, all of that has evaporated, and almost overnight. Like, it wasn't a slow digression. It was oh, this is the new reality. And that was pretty obvious right away.
Not just you, multiple people that we know at Redacted all have the exact same opinion.
Yeah.
From the exact same time frame. So it's not just you with that sentiment, it's multiple people. So
agree. And I can be thankful in that others like me that are forced with the same decision. I don't have to pull kids out of school, and I don't have to figure out how to pack up the dogs and cats, and I don't have to tell a spouse they need to look for a new job because our life is foundationally going to change as a family unit. It literally just is me. But I'll tell you, if I, and I was speaking to my dad about this too, I said, if I were in my early to mid 20s, I'd have already been on the plane. You know what I mean?
Ready for the adventure.
It doesn't matter. Like, I'm still renting at this point. I haven't picked how to be an adult yet, let alone what life goals are going to look like. I'm just chasing all of the action and adventure, and a job relocates me to enable new action and new adventure. I'm in. It looks different when you're 42. It's hard to hit the fucking reset button and be like, yeah, let's start over from zero. Not an attractive proposition. So my hope is that the glimmer of hope conversation that led to a conversation that's now interested in bringing me on board turns into a job. And I would be muy grateful, because that's what my heart's desire is, but I have no idea what time will bring in the next 2 weeks. But either way, I have to sign one of two papers, and both come with extreme risk, especially going with Redacted to their new location, because they put an astronomical amount of what ifs on top of that scenario that make it extraordinarily uncomfortable. And if you're wondering why that is, strategically speaking, from a business perspective, it is my opinion that they want me to take a severance so that they can rehire somebody in this new location for much cheaper to backfill me, and count it as a pay down instead of a lateral tax move. But as far away as I can put myself from Washington, it still punches me in the stomach, because in large part, the new state tax that was voted into Washington is the principal reason that this activity is occurring now. So that Redacted can skirt having to pay an awful lot in taxes to Washington state. So,
and don't mind Katie Wilson saying,
yeah,
fuck Starbucks, basically, in so many words.
Yeah. So that's the aim, is to figure my life out in 14 or less days. And it's just been an absolute savage adventure. So that's been my week.
Wow.
So weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been, obviously, the listeners have kind of gotten the surface, 10,000 foot view of this. We've discussed it and the tribulations you've been going through it. But Paul and I have been, and a few others, but have been kind of keeping track of it with you.
Yep.
And listening to all of the evidences and all of the different angles and things that have been going on, and this isn't the first time we're hearing this,
Yeah.
but it's still, every time you kind of lay it out, it's still shocking. And it is monumentally unfair, which I don't believe in living in a fair world, but in this
Right.
particular case, it is something that it's obviously snake level nonsense that they're doing to a lot of people.
Well, and
This
the
is
justification
zero.
is very thin as well. Most of the people
Yeah.
that are explaining the logic behind this already have their golden parachutes tightly packed. They've already
Yeah.
announced departure from Redacted, where they're going to leave, in some matter of weeks or months, maybe 1 month away, because
This
they're
is the-
pursuing new opportunities. But they've bonused themselves on the cost cutting, and the cost cutting includes the employment base of those cost centers. And I have watched them systematically destroy the entire division of the company that I worked for since early 2025. So I knew this was coming. What sucks is when you try to argue their logic with mathematics and say, well, my logic says, do you know how much money you would save if you just left me where I'm at? This isn't a performance thing, because I would have been fired by now if this was performance related, and I would have accepted that, right? Like, if you're just at home screwing off all day or whatever, you should be fired. But this isn't that. So can you explain to me how an investment of my stipend for working as a remote employee here at Redacted of a whopping, and I want you guys to get real jealous at how much I'm about to flex on my money. They give me $11 a month to help me with the internet and with office supplies, and $11 a month. I want you to aggregate this and put it out. $11 a month. You can't buy a pack of cigarettes for $11 in some states right now.
Or a gallon
Like-
of gas in some states.
Brother, how does that make any kind of financial sense? Leave me here. Like, do you know how much money you're saving by? So it isn't about that. It is about skirting taxes and other fringe corporate-wide benefits they would get by moving to a new state, political points. How many jobs are you bringing in my state? There's an awful lot of reasons that make that attractive to them. But all the people that are making the move are quickly leaving by bonusing themselves and parachuting out. So
Yeah.
it sucks.
I would say that this is the poster child for like egregious corporatism.
Zero
Like, this-
loyalty.
Yeah.
Zero.
This
isn't the
loyalty to their
same
employees.
Redacted that I fell in love with 14
No.
years ago. You know what I mean?
Now, and I think that red states that are in positions to where all of these different major corporations from anywhere from Virginia or California or Washington State or Oregon or New York or all these places that are just destroying their business infrastructure with taxes and other things. I think that there should be a referendum in red states to say no. We're going to take a principled stand here. Sure, it'd be really nice to attract, but look at what it did to Austin. Look at what it did to, Denver. Look at what it did to all these other states that allowed them, because the glitz and glamour and the money of these big corporations showing up and providing jobs was so enticing to them that they allowed them to come in and destroy the culture of the area that
it's
And
extraordinarily
jack the
short-sighted.
housing prices
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
And
consider
so
the
I
culture
think that there
shock.
should be I think everybody should stand together as the red states and go, no, lie in the bed you made. You guys helped build the culture that these corporate places all voted for all of the blue policies in order for them to actually make it benefit them, and then it turned on them, and now they're fleeing, and they're now going to bring all of those policies and all of that culture with them and destroy the areas that they go to. I mean, we have that in southern Idaho in droves right now because of all the businesses that are leaving the coastal states and coming into Idaho and going, oh, look at Boise. This place is amazing.
Well,
Now Boise is as purple as it gets.
Consider the culture shock of all these coastal states shoving their corporations out, mostly because they can't afford to even pay the taxes the state's imposing. Then where Redacted is headed, I will say comfortably, is in the South. And it's in the Bible Belt part of the South. And consider the culture shock of bringing the people that are West Coast elitist into the Bible Belt. There's a handful of things that are not going to pan out. Number one, your way of life changes and you're a visitor in somebody else's state. That's not going to be well accepted. Number two, the housing costs that Paul just mentioned are going to drive the local constituents fucking crazy when the premium prices of everything that they're building around and, you know, gentrifying and urbanizing all the stuff pushes people out of generational homes until the locals become the exports on a long enough timeline. And Redacted is not the only company that's going over to the same spot, by the way. So this is going to hit extraordinarily hard. And I think there's just ripe for division and malcontent on the short-sighted positive viewpoint of the current government officials saying, look at how much revenue we just brought to the state under our watch. Those folks get to retire. They get to move on. The outsized impact of California-ing another state, and I'm living in a state that is also seeing signs of that, is a real thing. And it is a very real local communal problem. So it's tough. Like I truly feel you could airdrop me anywhere from Florida to Alaska and I'll be fine. Like I can get along. I can make it work. The reason I want to go or not want to go is not because I fear going into an office and doing my job. It's I don't want to uproot the roots that I planted nearly 5 years ago and all the seeds and the unimaginable effort it took to do all of that alone to get to a point now where the seeds I planted are bearing fruit, and now I get to light it on fire and start over. To me, that's not an attractive prospect. So.
Big picture, they okayed it too. The whole situation that you're in down there is because they had originally signed off on it.
Yeah.
So there's also that.
Breaking the covenant with me is a big kind of middle finger to any career aspirations as well, because that's not the agreement we made. So
I feel like it goes back to the 2008 financial crisis that we had. The privatized gains and socialized losses. It seems like that's what they're trying to play here. And then big picture with the corporations, I would say Dodge Brothers versus Ford Corporation.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a big, like 10,000 foot view for all that's going on, because it's all about shareholder profitability. And the privatized gains, socialized losses, they just want to move out.
And
then
that's the thing too. If I'm fortunate enough to be lucid on my deathbed, I want my last words and thoughts to be of people that I care about, the times that I had and the life that I led. Well, what I don't see myself doing is choking out my last breath along the lines of, I just wish that I could have stayed longer to provide more holistic shareholder value and then die. You know what I mean? Like, so there is a level of attraction in breaking the cycle, but I have built a machine there that's was designed to protect my future, and pulling the plug on that is going to cost me a decade's worth of work, and that's really difficult to walk away from too. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
so you know, stress-free, living the dream. I'm doing great. Nothing's going on.
At least you got 4 pounds of peanut butter, bro.
And 4 pounds of peanut butter. That's actually correct.
Did you go to Costco again?
No. Once in a while, I'll use the Amazon pantry thing where I'm like, oh, I need dried pantry goods, noodles, peanut butter, things like that. So every month or two sometimes, because I don't eat a whole bunch, I'll do a pantry check and reorder stuff. And I had a little jar of peanut butter. And it's like, reorder me. And I'm like, I should reorder peanut butter because I'm running low on peanut butter. What I forgot to do, they have a little checkbox that's like, if we don't have an item that you want, should we substitute it with something else or something from the same brand or whatever? And I was like, that was enabled, right? So they did not have a jar of peanut butter. What arrived to my house was a 4-pound jug of creamy peanut butter. And I'm like it took effort to lift it up onto the counter when you're not expecting. You're like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to eat 4 pounds of Jif creamy peanut butter in a lifetime, let alone a month or two? So I have found the most creative ways to eat peanut butter. I like to put it in oatmeal, and I'll eat it that way.
All right.
Obviously, toast is great. Sometimes you could try it with like I think I could try my hand at pad thai, but you want peanuts, not peanut butter. But you're like, I got 4 pounds. What can I lose? So you throw that in there and then suffer through that later on. Cookies, and I gave a bunch of cookies out to people around me. I'm trying hard to get through 4 pounds of peanut butter at the
Peanut
moment.
butter and
wow.
honey. I love peanut butter and honey as a quick snack.
When your jug of peanut butter outlasts your career,
Your honey.
maybe you should rethink checking options when you go to pantry checkout with Amazon. Just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah.
So,
Just
yeah.
in case.
How much does a 3-pound jug of peanut butter actually cost?
I think it was like $11,
That ain't bad.
and I was
Not
like,
bad,
"Wow,
actually.
that's a lot for what it is." But it's also like, if this was like 11 pounds of like hamburger, you're like, cool,
Yeah.
burgers for lunch. I could do hamburger sizzle for dinner. I could throw veggies at it. I could
Hamburger
Make-
helper.
make meatloaf or
Peanut
something.
butter's
Like,
not as versatile as
how
hamburgers. so,
many
like,
ways can you eat peanut butter? And now you've got all the peanut butter. It's insane. I'll show it to
Well,
you guys.
now-
You guys keep talking.
It's
Well-
a monster. He actually showed it to me on a quick clip.
Well,
just
Paul,
randomly.
now you and I, that's our new mission now, is that we just have to send him an enormous amount of like creative peanut butter recipes as much as possible.
Or we
Like
can
flood
have
him
a
with them.
Costco-sized jar of jelly to go with it.
Absurd.
Yeah.
This is absurd. Look at this thing.
That's so much. That's a lot of peanut butter, dude. For a
Right?
single dude. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I can actually go through that.
4
pretty quick,
pounds.
but
That's
protein
too much.
shakes and stuff. Yeah,
That would,
Uh,
to be fair, in my household, that would probably last like, 2 weeks. So
the
like,
Adams peanut butter from Costco, the bigger one. I think it's only 2
Yeah.
pounds, so half of that, maybe it's 3. That goes pretty quick for
yeah.
me because I use it in a lot of
Do
stuff.
you get the no stir or the? I prefer
No,
the
the
no
old
stir.
school.
Oh, you
I
like the
like
old
the-
school?
I like the old
Alright.
school stuff, even though it gets messy on that first and second, and sometimes if it's been sitting,
Yeah.
it's been a month in and it's already separated again.
Oh,
It is a pain to mix it back together, but I do like the old fashioned separated. Like,
I figured it out.
I'm-
I'm inviting neighbors over for coffee, and then I hand them like a heaping 2 tablespoons of peanut butter with no context, and just hand them peanut
just
butter
on the spoon.
Yeah.
on the
a
spoon,
cup-
and be like, "It's
a
a
cup and a
household
spoon, and
tradition
just
here
yeah.
that you share this with a coffee drink because it enriches the flavor and stuff. You'll love it." And I'm just feeding spoonfuls of peanut butter to folks.
What did you give them the spoonful, and the second they take the bite, take the coffee away?
Yeah,
Wait, I came up with the horrible dogs you have in the backyard
yes,
that bark
Oh.
all night long.
yeah.
They don't bark if they're eating peanut butter all
That's
the
a
time.
good call. I wonder
Dude.
how often I could get away with that without them being like, someone's
Dude.
feeding my dog peanut butter.
Just roll them in like cornflakes, like roll peanut butter balls
Yeah.
and cornflakes and chuck them over there when
Toss
they're
it over the
barking.
fence.
Man,
they'll just-
does it give the dog the runs? Because that would be an
No.
added bonus
No.
if it did. Be
No.
like, bring the dog in, try it out.
Oh, it is creamy. I don't
But
know.
it'll get them to shut up. Like they'll just sit there and just mow on peanut butter for like an hour because they're just licking their teeth.
This is brilliant. I'm gonna
trying to get it
reorder
off.
another jug.
I mean, you tried
Anyway,
everything else. Might as well, right?
Yeah, so that's been my life. That's been my week. Paul,
All right. What about
tell
yeah,
me things
Paul,
are
what's-
normal with you, man. What's going on with your week?
Extremely normal. Other than I've been taking a boat to work.
Yeah.
I am doing a huge flooring job, tile job, and it's in the middle of an island in the middle of a lake,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no bridge access, so it's small enough. It's I think 14 acres. Yeah, it's been a hoot and a holler, and just to save on commute time and taking the boat over, I've been staying there thanks to the owner's graciousness of like, hey, just camp out here. We got the hot water tank on now, and because it was turned off the first couple weeks I was working there, and he even got the hot tub set up, and it's all on the lake, so quite the view.
Yeah, the pictures have been insane.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to be working on the water out there, and who gets to say that they have to take a boat to work? So, and then if I've got some leisure time, I can actually go out in the middle of the lake, and there's a famous castle built in the 1800s called Thornwood Castle. Its fame being the ending scenes of There Will Be Blood. Some of those scenes were filmed in Thornwood Castle. A beautiful place. Lots of history with that place, but going out in the middle of the lake and eating my lunch, just kind of hanging out, looking at Thornwood, pretty cool.
That sounds like where vampires would live.
Yes.
It looks like it for sure. And
Lady Delilah Thornwood, please.
Just one of those massive Gothic looking castles. And then juxtaposed to that is an even bigger, looks like a mid-century modern white flat, just plateau of house. A couple bays next to it on the same lake.
That's
even
awesome.
Bigger, even
architectural
more money.
paradise in that neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then a bunch of small houses stacked up, people that had lake cabins that have become homes. So that's kind of what I'm working on, was a smaller version of what is now a massive house. It was basically doubled in size. And with that, as a contractor, as a remodeler, you always get to see the ins and outs of how they added onto or built something. Shooting a laser to do tile and flooring, I've had to make up the difference of the two separate sides of the houses being off 1.5 inches on the straight.
Wow.
They're actually canted a little bit like this, just enough that you shoot a laser down and you have to decide which side of the house you're going to base your line off of, and then make up the difference on the other side. You can't really split the difference with the long lines, but yeah, it was a lot of math to figure out. But outside of that, life's been good. I've been running up and down the hill and up and down stairs, packing stuff around, smashed the crap out of my finger. So that's it's getting a little better, but a dead blow hammer and a finger is not a good combination.
Yeah. God.
Don't recommend it to anybody. Yeah, 0 out of 10 would not recommend.
Yikes. Well, I'm glad you're tasting normalcy for a little bit. We had some stuff this week, Lucky. We had to talk a little trash on some states. We had to figure out what the hell is going on in Washington and Virginia. Where do you want to go?
Well, I mean, they're in direct competition right now as to which state can openly and arrogantly violate their people more.
Yeah.
I think Virginia's got to beat. I'm just going to say, as a resident of Washington State, I feel like Virginia's got it worse right now. We've already got our teeth kicked in, and they're just adding to the teeth kicked in.
Yours, though, is it's just in different ways. Like, for
sure.
instance, like, sure, the ridiculous gun banning and gun control stuff that they're doing in Virginia right now is so egregious because up until that point, they've had at least minimal gun laws, and now they're like extreme, where you guys have had like already extreme gun laws over there for a while, so it seems less egregious.
Right, we got our teeth kicked in a while ago on that front. So
but you guys right now are going through the court, like, what was the
So I'll read it to you today? And I'll let you guys talk it out. Washington policy as of May 4th, the state Supreme Court
May the 4th be with you.
Blocked a referendum aimed at repealing that new millionaire tax. The court ruled the tax law contains a valid emergency clause shielding it from a quick repeal by the voters, making a citizen initiative the only current pathway for opponents to challenge any of this. So the tax applies to personal income over $1 million for now. The tax is set to begin in 2028 with payments due the following year. While the referendum is blocked, opponents can move forward with an initiative to the people type of repeal to the tax, but it requires significantly more signatures than the failed referendum would do. And the Senate passed a bill in February to restructure estate tax to a 10 to 20% range on top of that, like right on the heels of that. So,
and B&O taxes too. Don't forget that, because I mean, it doesn't affect me as being a small business, but B&O tax has also been stacked on there too.
Yep.
So you're getting it from both ends.
So it seems that the word that I'm hearing on this is that there was a little collusion with the Washington politicians right in front of this being passed, where I think there's going to be some lawsuits to the AG for now blocking the voters' ability to challenge the people they put in office for their decision making, which was against a wild and overwhelming negative vote when that actually hit ballots.
Yep.
So that's what I'm aware of for Washington.
The other side of that is AG also helped them draft how they worded this to make sure it went through. And then let's back up. I think it was last summer. I listened to a lot of Washington Policy Center with Paul Guppy and a few others on there on YouTube. And they had mentioned, I think it was last summer, there was a meeting, a gathering with the judges behind closed doors. Basically, it wasn't behind closed doors, but it was like a picnic, if you will, where they were kind of planning how this would all go down and whether or not they would be on board if it came across their desk.
Pre-planning reaction to opposition of legislation
with the judges in the Supreme Court, and then also getting the AG on board ahead of all of this. So they've already done the legwork and the background work to make sure they've crossed their T's and dotted their I's to get it stuffed down our throats against our will, which goes right back, circle jerk back to what you said earlier, Lucky, is that it's like, why are we even voting? This is, I think, before we started.
Yeah, well, and that's something I had mentioned a couple weeks ago, is that at this trajectory, the state of Washington is positioning itself to basically kind of remove, not on a federal level, like for presidential elections or whatever, but on a state level, they're positioning themselves to actually remove the vote from the voters, because at this point, it doesn't even matter. Like, your vote doesn't matter, and it hasn't for a while. And that, I mean, obviously was proven when 3 voting cycles in a row, the tabs, when they voted down.
We've said no 3 times in a row. Let's go. Why? Even had an initiative, and then the judge that went ahead and blocked it the 3rd time that we voted yes for $30 car tabs. She just kind of smirked at Ferguson. Was it Ferguson or was it still? I forgot the other guy. Inslee smirked at one of them, like, yeah, I'm doing your bidding and this is for you. Smirked at him and said, I'm not passing this. This is something, I forgot the specifics of it, but they threw it out on purpose.
But yeah, but that was at least, them just egregiously breaking the law and not being held accountable for it. But now what they've done is they've weaponized the legal apparatus of not only the legislative body to basically pass laws to say that your votes no longer matter, we will override you in any way that we feel. Yeah. And furthermore, now we've got the judicial system to back us up. Yeah. So at this point, where does it go from here? Why they will just basically say within probably 2 voting cycles, hey, we're just going to do stuff because your vote doesn't matter. We've already proven that through multiple voting cycles now. There's no point in voting for any of your state or city or county or policy voting. You can vote for the president, and that's where the feds will keep them happy, that way it doesn't seem like we're overstepping. But ultimately, this has got to come down at some point. It's got to be challenged by the federal Supreme Court. It just has to be. Like, it's just, there's no other way around it.
So with the tax creep, there's a necessity clause that they got them on, saying it's an emergency clause. Why isn't it emergency that they need more money for a budget that if they had run with the budget that they had already had, not the new budget they proposed that they said that they were short on, the budget was well funded with the taxpayer dollars already coming in. They kept saying that they had a shortfall. The shortfall was on a budget that they created that was over on purpose. So they're
Right.
creating this negative feedback loop on purpose to just get more money, while we've got
Do
the
you think
King
it's
County Housing Authority short and under investigation for a bunch of money missing. Is supposed
Do
to
you
go
think
to
it's because they anticipate the idea that with the millionaires tax and then the income tax that they're putting on top of that, but the millionaires tax specifically, that they're anticipating them all leaving?
I think
And they
they
are
want a
looking.
Klaus Schwab level of control here in this state of you'll own nothing and be happy about it. I think they're gunning for that, and I think that's all three coast states. And
Which is
I'll
why
go
you
out on a
get Katie, what's her name, laughing to the reporter when he's like, "What about this millionaires tax that everybody's going to be leaving? You know,
Yeah.
you're already missed a bunch of companies are already leaving right now, but
Yeah.
are we going to lose the Seahawks? Are we going to lose all of the all of the tech companies that came here on basically tax incentives to move here and became the new mecca for all that stuff? But
And there
now that
goes
you're going to tax
getting the
them,
Sonics back. We're not getting the
yeah,
Sonics back with that. The NBA
no, not
commissioner
even.
specifically said that you're implicating that you're going to do a millionaires tax. You know that's going to affect us even wanting to do an
Yeah.
NBA team there.
But she's laughing about it, going, "Oh, I don't think it's that big of a deal," as if there's
It's
an understanding and a knowledge that she has that this has already been anticipated.
verbatim.
Because
She said, "Okay, bye."
yeah, so
Well,
and
what kills me,
Ferguson said the same stuff too. So like these people understand that there's going to be this attrition. They already
Yeah.
get that, which is why they're backdooring this other stuff in order for them to be able to go, well, we're going to get our revenue come hell or high water, but
Yeah.
we know it's not going to be from them, but we are then going to have an iron grip control over everybody within this state now.
well, a couple things
I'll be
kill me
right
about
back.
that
So
too.
I got a couple points. I got to hit the restroom. I'll be right back.
Yeah, it kills me is that it says it's personal income over $1 million. So, like, that could be capital gains plus your estate plus your 401. Like, this is going to kill retirees too. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just I have $1 million paycheck. Oh, cool, let's go eat the rich, which is kind of how they sold it. But the court's decision reinforces the longstanding state precedent they have about revenue generators or revenue generating bills and measures are exempt from referendums, except for the fact that the exact same state precedent said we don't have state taxes. That goes against the state of Washington's own constitution. So it's the sword.
absolutely
It's the
does.
two-edged sword only cutting one way. And there seems to be an awful lot of collusion behind that too. And just when you think that's bad, Virginia says, hold my beer.
Right.
Like,
So Virginia's governor, who got voted in this last election,
Abigail Spanberger.
Abigail Spanberger, kind of floated in on the idea of being a centrist moderate, but the minute she got in, I mean, I'm talking hours, they started throwing down over 50 different taxes, including like taxes of going to gym memberships.
Yep.
Like she's just
It's like a dog walking tax. There's a tax for
Yeah.
every thought they had.
And then they immediately gerrymandered all the districts so the entire state is blue and there's no red in it anymore, because they said it was fair, and then tried to blame the redistricting in Texas as their mapping of that, which it's a totally different process, and they're getting called out for it, and it's actually going to get challenged in one of the regional courts that are the appeals courts or whatever, and but it was to restore fairness, which it does not even remotely come close to that. But then even like she immediately started going after the Second Amendment, like immediately started going after the Second Amendment to the point where, let's see, I'm looking for that particular, but yeah, I mean, she's like, Katie, what's her name? The Seattle Mirror, when she gets confronted, she'll just run off stage and not even care.
Have a handler say that's not on topic.
Yeah. And
But while
So
you're looking for
she's-
that, she absolutely signed HB 965 that enters Virginia into the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, which
Yeah.
pledges all 13 of Virginia's electoral college votes to the winner of the national popular vote, agnostic of what
Yeah.
the local vote is in the state. So
There's a bunch of states doing that, trying to get rid of the electoral college.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
So
a whole nother
the-
level.
it's Virginia joining an interstate agreement with 17 other states and the District of Columbia. And the compact only takes effect once the states totaling 270 electoral votes or a majority have joined, guaranteeing the winner of the national popular vote to become president, regardless of how their precincts and districts voted internally at the state. So it goes to the candidate with the highest total votes across all 50 states plus DC. So, yeah, I mean, you want to talk about national vote counting tampering being the number one target for the rest of our lives. More and more states joining a compact like this to eliminate electoral college are basically making that a foregone conclusion. So I'm not a big fan of Abigail Spanberger, and I don't even live in Virginia.
No,
And I think there should be
I have family that does.
in Virginia. Oh man, I was going to say there should be some form of legal ramifications for running as a specific political party and then doing a complete 180 when you get elected. I think there should be some form of legal ramifications for that.
I think that there will be. I think that the four main decisions that we've talked about here, the redrawing the lines for the gerrymandering, the removing the electoral college vote, the gun policy stuff, which she's a sweeping ban on guns in the state of Virginia. And what was the other one?
The 50 new taxes she opened up
The
and
50
kicked
new
out the door.
taxes, right? Yeah. I think what will come into play is that at least three of those, not the taxes probably, but at least the other three are going to hit Supreme Court level. They have to.
Yeah.
They're in contradiction to the Constitution. So like when you're playing around with 2A, it ends up in the hands of the Supreme Court eventually. Washington has seen that a couple of times. Oregon as well, a couple of other places.
Gators is still going through the courts for the Supreme Court to look at.
Right. So, but they're calling on, they're looking for the attention when they start talking about the electoral college or they start redistricting in a bizarre gerrymandering way. You're asking for the spotlight to be put on you from the Supreme Court at that point. Second Amendment, that tends to, float around a little bit because everyone's kind of afraid to hold that hot potato. But eventually, it ends up in the hands of the Supreme Court. But it's a more lengthy process. But when
it depends on what circuit it's in too. That's the other issue with Second Amendment stuff is that it really depends on what circuit it goes to first, because a lot of them will just kick it down or knock it out. So it's really hard to get it if you're in the wrong circuit to get it up to that level of actually having.
Absolutely, but when you start redistricting or eliminating the Federalist properties of the Electoral College, you're asking for the horns, and that's where I think they want to try to challenge it and take it to that level, or they wouldn't have stepped their foot over that fence, and so. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Supreme Court does with that, because it's patently clear what is required of the states when it comes to the Constitution, when it is explicitly written about how they're allowed to operate within that framework. Everything else falls under the 10th Amendment, how they tax their people and such, and what they allow to certain things. But there's certain structural policies that are hard written in concrete in the Constitution that cannot be denied. And the way that they cut the pie for gerrymandering is one of them. And the other one is definitively the Electoral College. If they were even close to allowed to do that, don't you think Massachusetts, New York, Washington, all of these other states wouldn't have done it years ago? Like they would have done it years ago. They've been bitching and moaning about the electoral college when it doesn't go their way. When it does, they're fond of it. But
Yeah, of
when it
course.
doesn't go their way, that's the first thing they start throwing stones at. So why wouldn't they have done that years ago if it was even in the realm of possibility to do? So I think that this is going to get frontlined. It's going to be speed tracked right to the front of the line for this particular Supreme Court. And I bet you Clarence Thomas is the one who drags it up there as quickly as possible.
You guys are familiar that they did rule against the racial gerrymandering just recently with the Supreme Court.
I'm
I'm not aware.
Yeah, so I think it was yesterday or the day before, the Supreme Court already ruled against racial gerrymandering. I forgot what act. It was a 1965 act. Part of it, I think it was Section 2, is what they ruled against. We used that as a precedent. I can't remember because I've listened to so many podcasts, which I talked to you guys earlier about how much I've listened to earlier. Yeah, the Supreme Court actually, let me Google it real quick and make sure. I'll do. Jamie, can you fact check that real quick and make sure? No, Jamie, go down a little more. No, over. No, not that one. Over, up. No, that one. That one with the weird image on it. That. Jamie, you're fired. You guys keep talking while I.
Well, yeah, I mean, between Washington and Virginia right now, like they are in a speed race to see who can completely destroy their state faster. Like it is unreal. And I've got
California's already lost. They're trying to
places.
chase people that used to live there with trying to get them to pay taxes because they moved away from the state. Now they live elsewhere and they're still trying to get revenue into the state from them. It's like,
yeah.
I actually heard about a guy who actually got one of those like questionnaires from them about like what assets he brought with him and stuff. And he did an Uno reverse on him and actually made a invoice to them about all of the things that they owed him for his business and his move and all of that stuff. And they went, "Thanks for your time," and then just like walked away from him. But like he just did an Uno reverse on it. But yeah, they don't have any authority to tax anybody who leaves the state. Good luck collecting. What are you going to do? Send bounty hunters?
I think Newsom would probably spin that up as a state-sponsored project.
I think it would be a tax lien against your bank account from that. So you have to. I read through this with eventually moving at some point, because Washington State's going to try and is doing the same thing, just not as strongly and outspokenly as California, where they're also trying to get you to pay taxes on stuff. And the way you got to prove it is close everything down in the state you're leaving and have receipts, including moving receipts, and like every bit of documentation that you've moved. Open a new account with that state, like state of Nevada, that kind of thing. Open a bank account with them and have everything moved over. Close your actual accounts. Like I have a credit union here. I'm going to have to close that down and show that I've legitimately moved everything, including my business, to another state to prove that I am not liable for any form of taxes. So real quick on the ruling, it was April 29th, so a couple days ago. Court ruled 6-3, Louisiana's congressional map, which included a second majority black district, was an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. The ruling narrows the scope of the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act from, I think it was 1965. So you're not allowed to just gerrymander based off of race anymore. Which
is essentially what Virginia was trying to do.
Correct. So that's going to that's already kind of striking that down. But this was based off of Louisiana, so that's got to trickle down to them. But that's also why Florida spit out their map real quick, where you see all the blue, and now the blues are two little pin dots.
Yeah,
it's changing extremely fast with this. It leads to an immediate redistricting challenges in several states.
Yeah, that's great. So hopefully it's not too late, because come midterms, it's going to be a different situation altogether. So we
Mhm.
shall see.
In my
But
opinion, what would really change the outcome is if we would finish what we started that we shouldn't have even started, in my opinion, at the Strait of Hormuz. Just get it
Yeah.
wrapped up and to clean the plate. Like,
Well, I think Iran has a really great kneecap America strategy by distributing the decision-making power of the regime that's there and then turning up their palms and going, we don't even know who's in charge.
yeah,
So you can see the visible frustration in the last Trump press conference, because we're 5.5 weeks into the 6-week promise that he made, kind of thing, entering negotiation state, and they're going, we'd love to negotiate, but we don't know who's in charge here anymore.
right.
And they can literally do
Oh.
nothing. And the more that happens, the more they become David and we become the evil Goliath to the world
Right.
stage, because all of those barrels are priced in dollars. And every
Yep.
single one of those ports produces a shit ton of world consumption. So it looks bad the longer they play the stalemate game for us, just from a policy perspective, because it kind of looks like we just went Maverick. I think the Venezuela thing was a stroke of genius, and there was no lives lost in that. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened that was net positive the way that was executed, but not involving Congress in this move and the stretch out and all this other stuff. Like, the strategic reasons long term for economic growth makes sense, but in the short term, it looks like we've bastardized our own process for really no reason at all. That's the narrative
Yeah.
that will be sold. And the longer they sit there and turn up their palms on who's in charge out here, we don't even know, the worse and worse and worse it looks for America.
Yeah.
I would disagree on all of that entirely, but I don't think we have the time to explore it. Maybe another time.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
next
what
week
will
we can kind of
happen in
explore
the
it.
narrative point of view.
Yeah, because there's been different things that have. I'm actually a huge supporter of what actually is going on.
I am too, especially with the
in that
nuclear
region.
threshold.
Yeah.
And then also what they just did in Indonesia.
Mhm.
And
that was a big,
And so what we're doing is we're actually creating a cutoff point and a choke point that is going to be creating a situation where we are completely in control of the oil supply all the way into China and everything else, and I'm super okay with that. Now, all we need to do is just put our thumb down a little harder on the Iranian regime, I think.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I'm with you.
I'm with you too. I'm just saying that's how the EU and everybody else is gonna. That's the narrative that will come out of this. You know,
that we should
And-
just shit or get off the pot. Get done with it. Wrap it up.
Yeah. And I think
that's where I'm
that
at.
from our perspective, that's how we would like to see it. But I would imagine the working parts in the background aren't allowing for that. But they know ultimately when everything breaks down, because this isn't bumbling. This is obviously very, very strategic, and they are doing it in, everyone at first were like, did he just decide to go out there and do this? But once you see all the pieces after Venezuela being put together and what is actually happening,
clearly,
it's
3D
clearly a
chess.
strategy.
Yeah.
And it's something that they know what the outcome is. They just need to make sure that all the pieces are set up properly in order to get the outcome that they need. Now, timeline wise, they go, okay, we have to do this, we have to do that. And me sitting from behind a screen going, I wish you would hurry up because it's looking bad, is something that I think once we have a little bit of hindsight on it, we'll understand a little bit more why they had to do it the way that they did it. I don't think that they're choking in any capacity. I think that if they wanted to, they could just put their big damn foot down on Iran and just go, we're done. But they also need to make sure that they are looking at it from the angle of how the world will view a big foot stomp, instead of them doing the most that they can to make it as diplomatic as they can.
I'm just pointing out the narrative that's going to get sold. Lest we forget, Iran has been at war with the United States since 79. I think 70% of all the IEDs used in Afghanistan were built or funded by and built also in Iran.
Correct.
Like there's plenty of reasons, nuclear threshold, imminent threats, all these things that are now being corroborated, that I'm definitely on the side of agreeing with you guys on this one long term. I'm just illustrating this is what you're going to hear.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I got to talk about Spirit Airlines. Can I talk about the...
Absolutely.
Can we talk about the Waffle House of the Sky?
Oh man.
Somebody did let's look back at the lifespan of Spirit Airlines, and it was just a bunch of people fighting in airports and pulling hair on the plane and all that stuff. So here's what's widely agreed upon. I'll just set the stage. Spirit Airlines shut down operations on May 2 after failing to secure financing or a bailout. It had multiple bankruptcies. Everyone agrees. November 2024 was their first Chapter 11. August 2025 is their second Chapter 11. It hasn't been profitable since 2019. And there's some final collapse drivers. There's a sharp rise in fuel costs, which is what Elizabeth Warren, who I'll get to, is taking victory laps on. Heavy debt, weak business model, because the ultra low cost model is deeply under pressure, especially with economic forces around post-COVID. And then a failed bailout plus creditor resistance to seeing an ultra low cost model under pressure. That's kind of where we're at. So the bottom line, Spirit did not suddenly just fail. All right. It was a multi-year decline with a shit ton of structural issues and a whole bunch of mismanagement, doing the best they could, but mismanagement, ending when it ran out of cash, right? So the catalyst for them going under is we had a JetBlue merger, which was sort of the biggest critical turning point of all of this, that was proposed. The JetBlue attempt to buy Spirit for $3.8 billion. The United States Department of Justice sued to block it, and this is where it's being cheerled by one Elizabeth Warren. So a federal judge blocks the merger in January of 2024 on antitrust grounds.
What?
And I'm like,
how is
okay.
it antitrust?
I understand that if you strip the ability to take an ultra low cost model away from the consumer, that we're left with a competitive set of only a certain classification of spending bracket for flights. But the market still sets that. And even if you take even if you take the ultra low away and say JetBlue's price was $1 more for the exact same flight, you have in effect raised the entire ceiling of what the consumer would have to pay by letting them die. And the market share they would have gobbled up in this merger was something like 3% of all air traffic. So the antitrust was you can't gang up and take out an ultra low cost model by merging, but Spirit's doing this for salvation of the assets that they had. So this is where things get a little muddy. So Spirit stock drops 47% immediately, right? And the company publicly warns about its future viability immediately at the same time. So what Elizabeth Warren did in 2022, if we wind the clocks back, she urged a bunch of regulators to block the merger because of these antitrust concerns. Well, the consumer's going to get screwed. After the court blocked it, she publicly praised the decision as a win for flyers or consumers. And the stated reasoning was that the merger would reduce all the competition and lead to higher fares. I just illustrated if JetBlue's same flight from the same airport was exactly $1 more than that, by them disappearing through bankruptcy, that would have happened anyway. And their prices were not $1 more, but that's the floor is naturally going to rise to the market bottom. So that's led to higher fares regardless. So it kind of aligns with standard antitrust arguments, the way that she sold this. Fuel prices are the nail in the coffin. The merger was blocked by a judge, not me. This is Elizabeth Warren murdering somebody with a gun and then blaming the gun for the murder. So she celebrates blocking this merger in 2024. They go completely under. And now everyone is criticizing this, highlighting the statement that the airline failed. Blocking the merger removes Spirit's best chance to survive this. So what did we really gain? The baggage handlers are unemployed. All the airline employees are unemployed. There's a bunch of empty space in the concourses where restaurants are becoming tenants where they can pay rent and sell coffees and scones and ice creams and whatever else they're doing. The merger may have reduced competition that raised price anyway, because now a bigger entity is driving the floor to a wider audience. So the top line prices likely would have gone down, not the bottom being artificially lifted up. Because otherwise, you know what stops all that from happening, boys? People don't pay for plane tickets until they get cheaper.
Yeah.
The consumer would have self-regulated the
actually
market down to
affordable.
themselves, period.
Yeah.
I can't
the-
afford to take a flight right now.
And the Ultra 1%, by the way, doesn't go through TSA. They're flying on private airplanes from private airports. They don't have to go through security lines. They're not worried about what types of coffee are being sold on there. So blocking the merger ultimately was the nail in the coffin, in my opinion, because that killed, not hurt, Spirit's survival odds. Because 2 years in a row, they had separately filed Chapter 11s on this thing. And I don't like when people take victory laps on some shit that didn't matter and ultimately hurts the consumer one way or the other. And like, I'm not a big fan of Spirit Airlines. It's sad that they're the example of the victim in this story. But even if you unpack the antitrust, there was no provable or even feasible way that their arguments would have held up. And now I think it's right to criticize the fact that, well, now there's even more people unemployed, and the consumers, to your very same gas price argument, Elizabeth Warren, are also not buying plane tickets at the low or the high end unless it's an absolute necessity. So did you really win on that one? I don't think any of us did, but take your victory lap, girl. Like, bananas to me. This example just kind of makes me a little disgusted that we're allowing politicians and the DOJ to campaign against all this stuff. Now, that said, I've been in big favor of blocking mergers because of antitrust in other areas, but circumstantially, they're much
Absolutely.
different, right?
Yeah, this is not the same thing.
I didn't see much risk on this one other than they could have gone bankrupt anyway. I don't like bailouts either, but Christ, a merger at 3% of the market share, who's really getting hurt by that?
Do you think
And
that
now all those people have to fly on other airlines.
Yeah. Do you think that Spirit could have survived that along with the weave pulling and fistfights? They also offered hash browns on every flight.
Yeah,
that
I think
might
so.
have been what would have saved them.
The waffle fry is what turned that franchise around.
Yeah.
It's possible.
So it just would have been great. And yeah, maybe a merger with Waffle House would have been absolutely perfect.
That would have been actually sick. Like, today's meal is just waffles.
Yeah.
Like, you get those giant, and that's all you get. There's just syrup everywhere.
I've never been to a Waffle House.
I have. It's a
I have
treat.
too.
It's a treat.
Yeah, that was the first time I had grits.
Yeah.
And I'll say
You
right
set
now,
the bar low on that first experience, didn't you?
Oh, I really did. And it was the first time that Aaron and I flew down to when we were going to Charleston.
Sure.
And we found out that flying into Atlanta is much cheaper. And you can then just rent a car, and it's like a 5-hour drive through the coastal South, and it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And so we flew in, and we had taken a red eye, and it was super, like, we hadn't slept really. And right outside of the Atlanta airport, like just right around the corner, is probably the most hood Waffle House in the country. And we went in there to try it. We're like, Waffle House, let's try it, right? So we go there, and it's packed, and it's packed with the usual suspects of what you would expect in a Waffle House. And so we just this cheery little Northwest couple come walking in there, and this rotund, beautiful, funny, like picturesque Southern black lady comes up and goes, "What you two want?" And we're like, "We just wanted to. You want a seat? Go have a seat." I made this lady laugh the whole time. I ordered everything off the menu, and our bill was $26.
Yeah.
After I ordered basically everything off the menu, and
What?
we had such a good time. There's pictures of me with like 9 plates in front of me, and it's all like, sides and everything, right? But I had a little. She's like, "What about this?" And I was like, "I'll try it. Bring it. Let's go." And it's your basic. I think probably the quintessential staple of basic
Yeah.
of diner food. Like, you're getting no frills and no whistles. It is, and so she brings it all out, and I'm trying everything. She just thinks it's hilarious, and by the end, we're like tipping her like over 100% because the bill was $26, and she's giving me a big sweet Southern hug, and she's just loving on me, and like, she's the sweetest lady in the world. Fast forward a couple of years, we take the kids down there in like 2018, 2019, to go check it out because we planned on moving there and to Charleston, not Atlanta. And we go into we're like, we're going to take you guys to the best place you've ever been. So we take my 2 kids to that same Waffle House outside the Atlanta airport. And it was later on in the day, so it was like in between like breakfast and lunch. So it was dead in there. And there was only like 3 like full-on gangster-looking dudes at the counter, and then the staff. And we walk in, and it was like a record scratching. This little, 4 white, pale white guys, 2 little kids walking in, and they all just stopped and looked at us. And then the lady comes walking over with this like look on her face of like, "What are you doing here?" She was, "You guys here to eat?" We're like, "Yeah, we're starving." They're like, "Oh, okay. Go have a seat." And the kids just thought it was hilarious. They thought the food was great because they're young, so they thought it was, "Oh, this is perfect." But yeah, it was Waffle House is it's an experience, and you have to at one point in time try a good Waffle House.
Got to. My experience with Waffle House. Do you remember? I think you might have been with me that night at Denny's in your neck of the woods, where we used to spend hours. Where whoever was driving, you know how they have the prison inmates cleaning the side of the road kind of thing that you'll see every once in a while as part of whatever. There was like somebody letting them use the bathroom, and then there was like essentially prostitutes going in and out of the bathroom. There was like a revolving door where it was like pretty obvious that whoever the driver was or their PO was getting a kickback from this pimp or whatever. So I saw that occur with truckers at my Waffle House experience, which was in Denver, I think Denver, Colorado. Incredible time. I'm just sitting there eating a waffle like, I can't believe this is happening. This is great. And then my favorite thing I've ever heard is pretty popular now for fantasy football. Usually there's what's known as the Sacco Award, or the person that comes in last place in your league. And the punishments can range from getting a tattoo to whatever your league decides, the deal. Yeah. The greatest I ever heard was the Sacco of a certain league was sentenced to a 24-hour stay at a Waffle House, and you had to eat one of their signature waffles to take an hour off your sentence. So you had to eat, presumably to spend less than an hour there, you had to eat 24 of these giant Waffle House waffles. Otherwise, you had to sit in the same booth for 24 hours, and just the amount of pain on people's faces. They're eating like their 5th waffle and ready to die. And then still having to be in that environment for so long. It's great. Like that.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. I love it.
Wow.
But you're not wrong. Spirit Airlines was known as the Waffle House of the Sky. And how many times have we seen YouTube clips of just all out brawls and just ill behavior? And
Food
I think
fights,
I flew Spirit one time, and that was it. And they had those hard shell bucket seats and nothing else. It was like the most bare bones like school bus that they just threw everybody in, and I get it. I get it for, economy flying. And I do think that it would be in somebody's best interest to create an economy airline, because a lot of us would actually fly more if it wasn't going to break the bank every time. But, even like Southwest now isn't allowing free luggage anymore. Now they're charging per bag, and all
really?
of the
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When they're supposed to start assigned seating soon too, it's not going to be like a cattle call.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
So that's
they're
shame.
all kind of going in one direction, which is going to be a detriment to all of their businesses when people just plain and simply stop flying, and because they just can't afford it within the economy. And it will create, hopefully, an avenue for one of an economy airline, but I don't know if it'll be allowed.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to get Elizabeth Warren's in there putting the kibosh on anything that they can't control. And so I don't know. We'll see. I think that it's insane that she's taking victory laps on putting thousands of people out of jobs.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say.
I'd love to know when the last time Elizabeth Warren flew coach on a budget airline was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't know. I had to balk at that a little bit because, like, when Bear Stearns took a bailout or tried to and failed, I was excited. Like, you're screwing the American housing economy over. The government should not bail you out. But we've bailed out so many AIGs and Fannie and Freddie, and we bailed out a whole bunch of Detroit before that and all kinds of stuff. But to get them on
privatized
antitrust where there was no real
socialized
stakes,
losses.
yeah, it felt greasy. What can you do? So
Did she short their stock right before?
every public record of her stock transactions has never once in her lifetime included a Spirit Airlines stock. So all of that AI generated shit about how she shorted them right before taking a victory lap is actually false.
Oh, this was it's not AI generated that I saw.
Oh,
I was
no,
speculating off the top of my head.
No, because I looked into that because I saw a flood of, like, she shorted their stock and then it's like, did she? And I looked and she didn't.
I missed that AI wave, thank God.
Yeah.
There's
AI
plenty
knows
more
I
that
don't like it very much, so it punishes me in my algorithm. All right.
Here's more of this. It's just shuffling shit in front of you. More
Paul
AI
is
slop.
Paul is the star of this segment. This is what he's been waiting the whole time for.
gross.
We're about to get into Conspiracy Corner. Now, you've been watching the show. When these tinfoil hats come on, you have to suspend all professional and personal credibility when we discuss Conspiracy Corner, led this week by our friend Paul.
So I did a lot of research, and some of it I took one for the team. It was pretty hard to listen to some of the research I did. Let's just give the 10,000-foot view. CERN opening portals for aliens to come through.
Okay.
So LHC is the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, actually opening up portals when it smashes those things together. I wanted to tie it in, so this is staying big 10,000-foot view. I wanted to try and tie it into DMT in Machine Elves realm, and people saying that they saw the matrix code in lasers on DMT, but after listening to too much of people legitimately tripping on DMT, I can say for certain they're just tripping balls.
Yeah.
So they think they're seeing stuff that maybe it's there for them for sure. I don't know about the Machine Elves thing. People are trying to like map that whole world out, and there's some continuity between it. Like if you do it too much and talk to them too much, you get banned from getting high anymore.
Yeah.
And then it's like you never get high again. So
yeah, you can't you can take as much DMT as you want, and you just can't
won't
get
do
high
anything.
anymore. But
So
there's actually a physical presence of one of the Machine Elves going, you don't get to be a part of this anymore before that happens. And
right.
they have
they
this
actually
interaction.
tell you no. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's across the board. It's happened to those people that can't get high anymore. So as much as I wanted to try and tie that into all of this, I wound up going down that rabbit hole, and I had trouble listening to 4 or 5 hours of
Well,
people tripping balls.
I want to pump the brakes for a
Uh,
split second before,
Okay.
because I know that's now not part of the larger piece you're bringing to us.
It's just entertaining as
Who
hell.
or
so I
what is
wanted
a
to share.
machine elf? Is this an entity that
Oh.
occurs to everyone that's ever taken DMT and is thus the guardian of whether or not you get to
Not
trip? Like what? I don't know what you meant by any of that.
So a lot of people have experienced like a whole realm under the influence of DMT of machine elves.
The same realm, like the same hallucination.
Yes, they're all describing
Yeah.
the same hallucination across the board. And
Yeah.
they're actually, people are trying to go under the influence and map out the different regions and areas that they're experiencing.
Oh, I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, so and this has nothing to do with the actual portal. I was trying to tie it in, thinking maybe that it was some tie-in with the Matrix being part of the background of all this, but it's just, yeah, people tripping balls. But I think there is some legitimacy to the machine elves thing. I've never done it, and I, as a YouTube channel, I can't condone it. But there are people out there that have, and there's a lot of there's other YouTube videos that have done it much more justice than I'm doing, with the surface level waxing the general idea of what it's like to experience the machine elves. But there's a lot of other videos. I'm trying to think of some of the guys. Danny Jones, Concrete Podcast. He interviewed a couple people that are familiar with that realm. And that's kind of how I got into the CERN opening portals thing too, was through
Okay.
his podcast and also the Y-Files. So Y-Files Basement is like an extended version of just the standard Y-Files on YouTube. And it's a 4 or 5 hour long podcast with whoever the guest is, where they go deep onto subjects. The one specifically that I watched was with Daniel Whiteson, who works for CERN and is a physicist. And the other one that I watched was a random YouTube video. It was an hour long, and I didn't realize that it wasn't just one segment. It was 5 or 6 different videos about portals at CERN mashed together from multiple sources. And some of them I just didn't even know. Like, someone made a YouTube video and they took that video and smashed it into this other one. So it was an amalgamation, and I can't. But the one that was prominent was Dr. Astrid Struckelberger, that also works at the Large Hadron Collider, so that there's different rooms with different.
Is that a real
portals.
name?
She was
Dr.
I
what?
believe, Stuckelberger. I believe it's German.
All right. Okay.
German or Swiss or Austrian. She had a thick accent, so
Oh, man.
she's from that region.
Didn't we learn our lesson about giving them scientific tools over in that region of the world?
Yikes.
Uh,
Says the one pod host with blonde hair and blue eyes.
So
So she
Where am
posits
I?
they have different rooms, is where you were headed, right?
correct. And
What's happening
so on
there?
the juxtaposition, Daniel says that there aren't other rooms with other portals, like a Stargate SG-1 status, where they're allowing aliens to come in and we're going over there and learning stuff. But she says that there are, and that there's also an entire base underneath the lake that's right next to CERN. So that also connects to World Health Organization, and I forgot what other national, like a global entity that's over there also by CERN. Supposedly it's a huge underground construct, and there were people doing remote viewing of the whole building underneath, and it included gateways to other realms. So
this is
if you
just a
believe-
massive potential cabal of
Yes.
interconnected global organization elitists that are
Yeah.
actively
Yeah.
interfacing or remote viewing through CERN portals to alien or extra dimensional creatures.
Or extra dimensional, that's the question. Are the aliens actually aliens, or are they demons? Because that's some of
Well,
the other
first of all,
videos that I've watched.
Hold on, Paul. Hold on. Before you go any further than that,
There's a lot.
Right, because it is a deep well and a lot of web connecting in this. But
Yes.
what is CERN? What is CERN, and what is CERN supposed to be doing according to the people, the public facing kind of concept of what CERN is actually supposed to be doing? Like, what
Well,
is it?
A Large
I
Hadron
know it's a
Collider.
hype, but like, what's its purpose according
Yeah.
to the narrative?
The narrative is to discover how the Big Bang happened, the beginning of our universe, and how did it form. And they're supposed to discern that through repeatedly smashing atoms together, particles together in the Large Hadron Collider, and discerning from doing it over and over and over again if they can discover new particles like the Higgs boson and dark matter and stuff like that. So they're still learning a lot. They are discovering stuff through this, but the other process and what people are worried about is that when they're smashing these together, are they actually opening up portals when they smash these particles together?
So, from somebody like me who comes from a biblical worldview,
Yeah.
this is from square one bad news at the level of witchcraft meets Jurassic Park science.
And so I would back you up on that with the CERN poking fun at some was it Moloch or it was a different entity? They actually showed and depicted like mocking a sacrifice, like a human sacrifice
Like
to a deity.
Baal, like Baal.
It
or
wasn't Baal
Moloch?
or Baal. It wasn't Moloch. It was another one, Shiva.
Okay, Shiva,
Or,
yeah.
I
That's a
forgot
Hindu
what.
god. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one
Not
of
a
those where it was
Mesopotamian one.
Yeah, and they also have that Shiva, or is it Shiva? I can't remember because I just listened to podcasts. I didn't re-listen to it before I got on.
But they're playing around with like pagan deities of different
And
types.
using the symbols of those guys on their badges, and like they've got symbols supposedly around. This is what I heard in some of the videos, is that they've got the symbology for that stuff all around CERN and also World Health Organization and a few other places. So,
Yikes.
yeah.
So they're toying with the unknown on with a budget of trillions of dollars in near full secrecy, with the idea that they're trying to figure out the origin of the universe. And they've made a giant machine to do it.
And the giant machine, it's one of the other theories. So let's step back from the portal theory, is that CERN, Large Hadron Collider, the first time they smashed an atom together, particles together, created the alternate timeline, and that's why we have the
Mandela effect.
The Mandela effect is that we split off onto a different timeline.
Those sons of bitches. They created pickleball.
And then there's another theory that some of the aliens are actually us in a future world where we've ruined our reproductive abilities or something through genetic manipulation. So they're coming back through the portal to try and fix their fuck up, supposedly. That's another rabbit hole to go down.
Well,
Adrian, you're laughing your ass off.
First of all,
well, I love the idea because I said that by creating the Mandela effect that they created pickleball.
Yeah, I love that's the negative alternate timeline that my life has tumbled down through the rabbit hole, so to speak. But
I live right next to where pickleball was created, so that's not anything out of the norm for me.
So you think in your timeline?
Oh, I remember playing it in high school. It could be Mandela
effect. Oh, you're one of them.
No, it was just this was made in our region, so we're gonna play this today, and everybody was really good at it. It's like, oh, that's cool, and then all of a sudden it became a national thing.
It didn't exist before the pandemic.
It did not exist before the pandemic, Paul. Like, it didn't exist. It never existed in one piece of
literature. I've never even heard the word pickleball.
Yeah,
in all the publics. I went to 3 high schools in 4 years. We don't have a pickleball area.
Not a single person I've ever met played it outside of It's never been in a movie. It's never been in a magazine.
Sure, was the Tacoma thing. And so being in Gig Harbor right next to Tacoma, it was like we're doing pickleball today, and it originated next door over in Tacoma. I was like,
That's
okay, cool.
that's wild. We're living in two different timelines, and it's
It's the Mandela effect.
the Hadron
Thank you.
Collider's fault. It's all of
Yeah.
these people. Okay.
You know how
Started
prison
all
mates
of this.
play handball?
Yeah.
I played that before learning about what pickleball was.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
And we had this thing where they would tie basically a volleyball to a pole, and they called it tetherball, and we would just
yeah, we
beat
had
the shit out
tetherball.
of that for a while. That's what we
Yep.
had
I got
back
really
in
good
my
at
day.
tetherball.
What I was gonna say is, I don't know if there's truth to this or if either of you have heard it. Speaking of the whole point you just made about the reproductive stuff, Paul,
Yeah, yeah.
is not the Dutch. So I think it's the Netherlands, or it could be one of the
Scandinavian
countries over there. Yeah, Greater Scandinavia. Don't they have Bill Gates on public trial right now for going through records about how his influence, patents, and project funding went into mRNA research to control populations and stuff?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
So
I can't remember which country, but yeah, he's definitely on
I
trial.
feel
over
like
there.
that's occurring right now, and obviously they're tying it to the vaccine stuff and the pandemic piece, which makes a ton of sense. And we've talked about that on this podcast before without tinfoil hats, but I don't know.
Well, I think there's a lot of facts still coming out about that was tinfoil hat stuff.
Yeah,
Stuff that would get you banned on YouTube is all of a sudden becoming fact.
right.
Yeah.
So that's occurring with or without CERN as well in some theaters, it seems, but that's another
Yeah.
going narrative. Essentially what you're saying is that when that collision happened, some energy dispersal created multiple timelines or possibly portals, depending on which theory line you go down on.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It's one other thing I want to mention that Daniel Whiteson brought up in the Y-Files basement episode. I should have written down what episode number it was, but him and AJ talk about, AJ's the host, talk about aliens showing up with like warp drive, but not being interested in how the science behind it or how it works. It's just like, you guys don't have warp drive? What the hell's wrong with you? And then we're asking them for details like, hey, aliens, tell us how this works. Like, bruh, it just works. It's just being like the ultra giga chat about warp drive. Like, I don't know, bruh, it just exists and we use it. It's cool, right? I don't understand why you're all like wanting to know about the physics and stuff. What's physics, you know? But yeah, they could have technology that this is just normal for them to go through a wormhole or a portal to get to our dimension. And it's so stepping on another crazy wormhole to go down. Interdimensional travel. Are they just from another dimension? Are they from a higher dimension than us, where they exist in a completely different realm? And that's why we just don't know how to communicate with them, or we're
Is that
knocking on their door with the LHC. That's one of the other posited ideas for conspiracy.
interesting? So there's speculation that we're opening up portals that are essentially wormholes for alien life form, or that the contradictory theory is that they're not aliens at all, that they are actually that it's actually they're interdimensional beings, and we are looking into a separate dimension rather than, and then
Right.
the druggies agree more with that than they do with aliens, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then what did JD Vance just say on a recent interview? He said that he thinks the aliens are just demons.
Yeah.
So
And in fact, I think there's been a couple of people within our current congressional body that have actually been interviewed saying, "You're not going to believe what we've seen, and we're not allowed to talk about it." I can't
yeah,
remember
the guy from
which.
Tennessee, I forgot
Yeah.
his name. I know all
And-
these names when I watch them, but yeah, he's trying to release as much as he can, but having been in a skiff, he's not allowed to talk about it verbatim. They keep talking about disclosure. That's the big one if you want to get on just a solid aliens topic. But what are they? Supposedly we're supposed to hear about it But we were also supposed to get the Epstein files, and those were pretty empty.
Yeah. So
I don't see
Millions of pages.
I don't see the value in releasing enough information to get people to ask more questions and never receiving answers for those because skiff, because rule, because we're protecting you from mass panic, but because of reasons, to the point that my de facto to a lot of that stuff is, well, if you've got me looking left, what the hell are you doing over here on the right?
On the right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, because I don't
agree.
believe any
I
of this stuff until like it, and I carry a particular worldview too that would favor spiritual activity and angels and demons well above aliens and advanced species from other dimensions.
Right.
But I
So
want
to
to see the
tie-
tape. I want to see what they saw in a skiff, and I'll make the judgment
So,
call for myself.
Just something happened. I think it was this week. A guy was reporting on a bunch of pastors being gathered together to talk about talking to their congregations and prepping them for basically some form of disclosure and making sure that their flock was ready to handle whatever news came out. I don't know. That was just a random YouTube video that popped into my feed because of what I listen to for entertainment purposes. So I think it's fun to
I mean,
imagine.
do you think they'll ever get to that level of disclosure?
I mean,
I-
there's so much that people have discovered about Roswell and all these other programs that they've had hidden, and Grush coming out and talking to Congress about it, congressional members having special meetings saying you wouldn't believe the shit I've seen. I think there's a lot that they could tell us that they aren't telling us, and I wish they'd just get to the point. Is it ours? Is it someone else's?
Yeah.
Or is it interdimensional beings? Or is it a higher state of consciousness coming to come say hi to us?
Well, while you've got
Are
the
they fighting
tinfoil
for
hat
our
on, which way are you
souls?
leaning?
Or
Or
it's
at all?
fun to believe. No, it's fun to believe. I also am one of those guys, I'll believe it when I see it. Otherwise, it's faith-based for me, says that there is a higher power and I believe in him. Then we'll see if there's some form of entity that he created somewhere else. I don't know. Supposedly we're the only ones, but
I would agree with that sentiment entirely. I think that we are toying with it would be very easy to dismiss God if alien life existed, and therefore it is prudent upon certain principalities and groups to tease that along, not provide definitive proof ever, but give enough people enough teasing of the hoax of it in order for us to, all the while playing with entities from other dimensions and then claiming, oh, these are aliens, in order to continue that ruse. That's kind of where my heart leads and my brain leads as to what is actually going on here. Do I think any of it is real? Yeah, I think that they're opening up things for sure. I think that they're engaging with things for sure. I think it is creating cause and effect situations globally for sure. But what is technically behind the curtain, who is the great and powerful Oz back there, that is to be determined. And whatever source tells us definitively what it is needs to be questioned thoroughly in order for us to actually know what's going on behind that curtain.
One of the many videos I've watched, it was an interview with someone on Reddit. No, not Reddit. 4chan. So you know it's going to be good when it's a 4chan article.
Right.
Area 52. I forgot the guy's name that does all the interviews, but he's basically reading through the transcript of this guy communicating back and forth on 4chan with a bunch of people asking questions, so that there's been a presence here on Earth protecting us from other entities, some of them malevolent, some of them benevolent. It's been protecting us, and it's quote unquote running out of resources, and it's not going to be able to protect us anymore. And that's the whole reason for disclosure, is that it's running out of resources to protect us from everything else that's been around us. It's been like sheltering us like a bubble kid, basically. And one of the points that he makes of having contact with some of the entities is that they're answering to a higher power also, and they don't call the higher power God, but they said in our minds that's what we call him, is God. But that's who they're also answering, and why they're doing what they do, why they were protecting Earth, was because they also answer to a higher power.
So I've been seeing, and I tried to look it up, but there's these two different, and I think it's connected to this, but there's these two different alien races that they've been showing lately a lot. And
there's 9. There's the Greys, there's the Nordics, there's the Reptilians, there's the
Right.
Mantids.
But in this particular case, they're calling them like 37 and 39, which they're talking about that they are talking to entities that have very similar looks, but not entirely, that are entities from like 3,700 years in the future.
Right.
And
I've
then
heard
us, and then the 3,900 years in the future, that have
Right.
two different narratives going on about like, and these are the entities that they're talking to, and they've pulled some out of these portals and actually are talking with them, and some people are actually hybrids of these type of future us alien type things,
Yeah.
which is, I have not yet explored into that. I've just seen some videos, but no,
So they
you're
say there's an alien hybridization program with humans, but there's also, so the talk about the two different time frames is that that was actually on Area 52, and his stuff's usually pretty long form, which I enjoy when I'm working. Hard to fall asleep to, but because I wind up just falling asleep. The one of the civilizations from the future was doing well and wanted to make sure we continued on that path. The other future was doing worse off and wanted to correct where we were going to make sure we didn't do the same issue. So one's promoting the right way to go, and the other one is, yeah. And I think that ties into multiple sources cited about UFOs, aliens, whatever you want to call them, disarming nuclear warheads.
yeah.
I'm sure you guys have heard a ton about that. I think that's them protecting us from blowing ourselves up.
They said that one of them turned into the Greys and lived underground, and those are what the Greys that are coming out are, and that the other ones that like 30, those were 37, and then 39 were what turned into the Nordics.
Okay.
And so there's a whole bunch of lore, I guess is the best term for it.
Well, the
as of right
Nordics
now.
always, from all of the people that have, and this is me just regurgitating off the top of my head all the stuff that I watch, the Nordics typically have a handler with them that doesn't look anything like them, like a more ominous figure that's usually standing on the backside if they're in a ship and they come down to say hi. There's
Yeah.
usually like a handler behind them, but they're, I guess, really tall, and they have telepathy, so they can just talk to you without using words.
Right.
But very
So
elegant looking.
what do you think about the idea that this is not necessarily aliens and kind of leaning more into the demon direction, but that if you take the concept of the fact that there's an idea that if you bring the Nephilim into this, that the Nephilim these are Nephilim, but also the fact that the kind of spiritual versions of these that we're seeing in these portals, that demons aren't created by God. They weren't fallen angels. They weren't humans that turned into demons or anything like that. The demons are actually the Nephilim that died, like in the flood, which is why the demons are afraid of water, but that they're the disembodied spirits of Nephilim, which is what demons are, because they don't have a soul, so they have nowhere to go, which is what ghosts are, which is what these entities are, which is what all those things that we perceive in our human state, but keep kind of touching the outskirts of and tiptoeing over the edge of and having these experiences for hundreds if not thousands of years in all these different realms. Why some people really believe in ghosts and some people really believe in aliens, because they've had these experiences. That's what it is the demons are these disembodied, like, floating entities that basically don't have a place to go. They can't go to heaven, they can't go to hell, because there's nowhere to put them, and so they are trapped here on earth, and they have created little fun pockets of alien lore and ghost lore and all of these
Skywalker, Skinwalker Ranch,
all of
Bermuda
that. Yeah,
Triangle supposedly is where the entities like protecting Earth with these spheres that they're running out of stuff. But there's also a place in Massachusetts that's like Skinwalker Ranch, where there's a ton of activity, like it's a portal to another dimension. There's just a lot of paranormal, if you will. But the Book of Enoch is very interesting because
it very much is. Yeah,
and it ties into a lot of the geological stuff. So let's go back to Shroud of Turin. They know that that's real, and that the image on it is most likely Christ, did exist, was a real person, and that the flood happened based off of let's get back the Shroud of Turin, because there was someone, I forgot how the guys detected it, but it was like a nuclear blast went off to create that image on the linen, and the only way to do that without burning the linen and ruining it is like 1/240 billionth of a second flash of energy with the same power as a nuclear bomb to create that image on the Shroud of Turin. And then
that's scorching.
And then the flood. We've got the Younger Dryas event that everybody's talking about. That was a huge cataclysmic event, ice melting from all the caps and flooding across the world. We've got the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the same thing as Noah's story, a lot of similarities. All these different places around the world talk about it. So I think there's a lot more truth to what's in the Bible than what people admit to or want to admit to, because it seems so fantastical at times. What in the craziest sense, what if all of it's real?
Right. And what my conclude, like where I was kind of steering this was, do you think that the science and elitism community that created CERN knows all this, and that's actually what they're doing, rather than contacting aliens or interdimensional machine elves or whatever?
I lean that side with a lot of like world government and a lot of the people higher up in society. I think there's a lot of underhanded stuff that they're doing with all of that. But
as long as we have Tom DeLonge, working with the government to tell us that it's all aliens, then everyone's going to look in that direction when they're actually creating a basically a resurgence of Nephilim. And providing bodies for the disembodied, spirits that are demons
that are just floating around here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No,
a great war that the Bible explains in Revelation.
Yep. I could see all of that. Yep.
Yeah. So
we went
wild
on and on. How are you doing? Is your brain filling up too much over there?
No, it's tough to move me off my rock. I have held the half-assed belief, but I hold it nonetheless. If the rapture is real, the logical way to explain that is an alien invasion, because it's been pop culture forever and ever. I think that is the de facto answer to that. Do I think that world organizations and maybe even folks in places like NASA and CERN and all these others, like, are there deep rooted imagery and symbolism tying to the occult? Yes, there is. Do I believe in interfacing with spirits and spiritual warfare and all kinds of stuff? Yes, and have had personal experiences to that end. Do I think they're opening portals to interdimensional beings in CERN? And do I think the United States government sitting in a skiff has seen these videotapes and we just wouldn't believe what they've seen and stuff? No. I think it's a propaganda machine for other shit. I really want to see
The
just
left
one
hand versus
video.
the right hand.
I want to be in one of those skiffs one time where I'm like, okay, my heart says this is biblical in nature, and whatever environment you were filming ought not be messed with any longer, is my personal belief. You guys are going to do it anyway, but I think that's bad. But I can't get there with aliens yet, and I'm not certain that CERN is opening portals yet. But is it kind of thumbing its nose at the creation story to even attempt to figure out energy releases to potentially add new discoveries? But the root of it is to try and defend the idea that it was happenstance that all creation came into existence through a blast. Yeah, I think that's kind of thumbing your nose at creationism and intelligent design, generally speaking. But the specificity around the people that know a guy that talked about it has never been validated once. It's always a guy that talked to some other dude that experienced it. And so,
yeah. And here I am relaying what a guy talked to a guy, talked to a guy, talked to a guy about.
Exactly.
And
so I think there's a mountain of truths in what we've discussed. Trying to parse it all is going to take hours to do to firmly land on what I believe on it. But I've long held the rapture piece being like, oh, that makes a ton of sense. And then this occult connections with a lot of these organizations, I also feel there's very strong, just the symbolism alone is extraordinarily strong in most of these agencies and stuff. Their patches, their credos, you can unpack that on US currency in a lot of degrees too. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm still out on the alien bit. I need to be proven wrong. And I live in the hotbed for that activity. I see this shit all the time. Local news.
You realize you had the
blurry cell phone footage. Like I'm in it every day.
Area 51 has had a ton of earthquakes. They had 11 earthquakes in the last couple days, right around Area 51. And there's like seismographs going off all over Nevada right now, all the way up at Tonopah.
Yep. That's the Groom Lake back door. Yeah.
So ton of earthquakes happening up there. Maybe they're getting ready for disclosure. They're going to send a whole fleet of aliens around to say hi to everybody.
Can I make a request of the two of you? Actually,
sure.
Yeah, sure. Shoot.
Paul, and Angel, would you be okay with Paul coming back next week if Paul has the availability? Paul, would you research and explore the idea of the Miami incident?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, refresh my memory. I've probably heard it, but
like a little over maybe a year or two ago, there was this big thing that happened at a mall in Miami where like more law enforcement showed up to this mall, and everybody was running around, and all of these reports of these gigantic beings that came out of portals showed up and were just walking around, and everybody freaked out and left, and everybody got it on video. But then they all got swoop netted and everybody's stuff got deleted, but a couple of grainy images came out of it, and then they just shut down the narrative and never talked about it again. And it was this huge deal where all these reports and audio was coming through about they're reporting all these people running for their lives from these like enormous, like 10 to 12 foot beings that came out of these portals in a mall in the middle of Miami. And they never explained what happened there. They just kind of swept it under the rug and just walked away. I've seen a couple of videos recently that have popped up from some of the eyewitnesses that were there, and I've been kind of fascinated to kind of pull that thread, but I haven't done it yet. So
and my answer is
with Miami.
Paul can come back every week if he wants to. I love this stuff.
And this is stuff I listen to for entertainment purposes because it's fun to believe. It's fun to just the mental gymnastics to believe that this stuff is real is entertaining, and the Varginha incident, not Virginia but Varginha, believe Brazil, that's another deep rabbit hole to go down. All of these people that corroborate having interacted with a small green, like reptilian being, and some of them dying through contact with the being, just getting a scratch. Other people having operated on it. Yeah, it's quite the deep dark story. But yeah, so Miami incident, and I can gloss over it. There's a million videos about the Virginia incident if you guys ever want to go down
Yeah.
that rabbit hole. There's people have done it much more justice than me. Specifically, the I forgot the guys. I should know a lot more of these names, being so deep into all this stuff on a regular basis. But Danny Jones podcast, he has one of the guys on that did a lot of the first person in-person interviews with the people that had contact with the Virginia alien.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, as far as like the seismic activity and stuff, that like there's more and more weird stuff that's become commonplace for me since I moved here. Like, I firmly believe a year and a half, 2 years ago that I was EMP'd. Like,
Yeah.
Oh shit!
I mean, I
really?
have like mountains of evidence that, yeah, my friend came over to, basically short story, my friend came over to do an oil change in my garage, and then his car wouldn't start working. Just died. Would just inexplicably bad grounding situation. All the electronics failed. So, you know, and it sat in my garage with what turned out to be like a week or so, and we ended up towing it out to fix the grounding problem that they later found. But the night I drove him home, and then as soon as I came back, as soon as my tires touched my driveway, my car died. Full electronic
What?
failure, all screens out, whatever. And I'm like, this is bananas. So I had to wait about 5 minutes, and then the car pretty much came back to life, essentially. Everything was reset, which was weird. And I was like, what an odd 2-for-1 anomaly at the same spot at the same time. And then I went
Yeah.
into the house, and all of like the security cameras, my clocks were all out, but it was like the first
be right
time you
back. I'm
unbox
listening,
and
though.
set something up where it's like, please establish an account and set things up and build out the profiles. I had to rebuild everything from scratch, like hard reset, nuked. My internet was gone. The electricity was gone. Everything was just not like a power outage, because that stuff has memory and comes back. It was like hard wiped. Had computer problems for a week or so after that. So I'm pretty sure some form of electromagnetic pulsing occurred, because I've never experienced systems of all types in full collapse like that.
Yeah.
It was like, this is bizarre. Like, everything I owned died and had to be reset from factory. So
Was that one of the nights that we had the Aurora
it
Borealis?
was right
showing?
around the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That would make sense.
So anyway,
Well,
all right. Well, yeah, I think Paul should come back. I want to talk about the Miami thing too. But yeah, that I suppose has been Conspiracy Corner. I know he's out of the room for a minute.
Yep.
All right. We
But-
can come back to credibility and reality a little bit. I'll take these off.
Yep.
Excellent.
By the way, I loved
it's hilarious.
your tinfoil hat, by the way, which was a tinfoil headband. So, which covers all the important parts. So,
Well, last time we did Conspiracy Corner, I did a
Sombrero,
tinfoil
right?
sombrero. Doesn't really work with the headphones because they
Yeah.
got the band over the top. So I thought
Yeah.
that one through a little more this time. I was like, oh, it's got to be a headband. I mean, granted, it's not doing its job of protecting the dome from EMPs, but
as long as it
Or
gets the
a
forehead
sock.
and the temples, you're good.
yeah, they just
Yeah.
try and block the mind's eye, the pineal gland, and try and
Yeah.
block them from getting that.
That's right.
They want them to calcify it.
All right. Well, we've
Do you guys
got
want to hear a little dope?
we got some dope,
Yeah,
and
dude.
then we'll bang out some movie reviews. What do you got for the dope this week?
Man, I've been doing a lot of for the dope. I've been doing a lot of kind of like community building, helping people, helping out restaurants, or a lot of food ones or heartfelt ones. And this week I decided to kind of just go humor, just
Mhm.
something to laugh at, and it's kind of a community build. It's kind of something that this guy helps out his community, and in a weird way, but it's called John Breaks Bad News. And John Breaks Bad News is a gentleman who, in 2019, had a podcast that he couldn't get it to take off. And he was talking to somebody about like doctors having to break bad news to people, right?
Yeah.
And what a chore or a task that is for them to have to emotionally invest into it. And then he got the idea, he goes, what if somebody outsourced that? What if somebody became a proxy for that? And so he created a show called John Breaks Bad News, where you can actually submit, and he streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays for a couple of hours. And he's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, X, and YouTube. And he streams on all of those. And basically, he sits in front of his computer with his headset on, and people submit things that they want to tell people, but they're afraid to. And you can donate to him and pay. He doesn't charge for it, but people often give it. Like if you tip him over $50, it accelerates you to the front of the line. But and basically you write out a small script of what you want him to say, and he calls that person for you on air, and we'll sit there and he'll talk. He'll go, "Yeah, is Emily there?" And the person goes, yeah, this is Emily. Who is this? He goes, yeah, this is John from John Breaks Bad News. Brandon wanted me to call you and tell you that he thinks you're the worst employee he's ever had, and that he wishes he could fire you because he's caught you picking your nose in the walk-in, and he thinks it's really gross, and he thinks that you're kind of a slob. But yeah, he said that if you get your act together and stop being such a goblin, then maybe you can keep your job. And then he'll just sit there and let it stew. And then the person is confused. And they're like, who is this? He goes, yeah, this is John from John Breaks Bad News. And he'll just sit there. And he's like this big, long-haired, bearded guy. And his wife is his producer and helper. And she's like the one who kind of orchestrates it all for him. And she's off screen, but he talks to her quite a bit. And sometimes he's like drinking a beer and just kind of sitting there. And he just deadpans the whole thing. And the person goes, Brandon told you? He goes, yes, Brandon told me to tell you, and then he'll repeat the whole message. And then they'll sit there and they'll go, man, that's messed up. Why would you say that to me? He goes, I didn't. Brandon said that. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Don't shoot the messenger, bro.
Yeah, and she goes, well, that's pretty mean. He goes, it is what it is. Maybe you should stop picking your nose in the walk-in. That's pretty gross. and then he starts ribbing him, and then then by the end of the call, whether they get mad or they laugh and kind of accept it, because sometimes it's lighthearted, sometimes it's just buddies kind of ribbing each other.
Yeah.
Other times it's like people breaking up with the other people, or telling them that like I slept with your mom, or whatever.
Wow.
Like the scenario is. He breaks bad news, or sometimes it's just like he is talking crap by proxy to another buddy, right? And but sometimes it's pretty heavy, and then by the end of the thing, either they're mad or laughing along, but his goal is to get them to say I love you at the end of the call. It's so that like by the end of it he goes, all right, well, that's all I have to say, so I'm gonna let you go. I love you. And the person goes, oh, okay. He goes, say it. Say I love you. And they're like, I love you? And then he goes, thanks, bye. And then it just clicks. And he's got episode after episode after episode of him just doing this. And he's got hundreds of thousands of followers on some areas, but a couple million on like TikTok and Instagram.
Wow. I wonder if I could pay him.
Instagram Reels. Okay.
I wonder if I could pay him to deliver my resignation at Redacted if that's the way this goes, you know?
Oh,
just have him dial
John.
into team meeting and Just
It's John Breaks Bad News without an H, all
Yeah.
one word.com. And you can go there and you can submit it, and he'll get to it. He's got all of his rules of how everything works.
Oh.
So if you need to break bad news to somebody, but you
great.
don't want the confrontation or want to do it, he will work as a proxy for you for nearly like $10. So it's a worthy investment.
What a service! Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
he's
value,
servicing the
friends.
community. Yeah, and so like I don't know where he lives. I'm thinking it might be Florida, because the Orlando Weekly did a big story on him back in September of 25, and he also does stand up. I think he's wearing a Jawbreaker shirt in this picture too.
Oh, right on.
But yeah, he's just a funny guy who just has taken his skill sets of relaying information and has done a really good Samaritan job of this, and it's hilarious, and I get a kick out of it every time he comes across my screen, and you're sucked into the kind of the cringiness of it sometimes, where it's just like, oh, this poor person, and he is just delivering this deadpan, and sometimes he sympathizes with it because, yeah, it's pretty messed up. Sorry that happened to you. Or sometimes he's like, you're kind of a piece of crap, so you should probably work on that. And so like, but it really depends on the scenario. But it's pretty funny. I highly recommend it.
Nice.
So it's just John Breaks Bad News, and it's cathartic in the way that sometimes you can think of people in your life that you would love to be able to tell them what you actually feel, but this might be the best approach for it. So
That's great.
Yeah. So
What's his name again? I'm gonna punch it in on Instagram right now.
It's JON. John Breaks Bad News, all one word. Awesome.
So that is the dope of the week.
I love it. All right, so you had what movie? Two things. You had movies.
I did.
You had a season 2 closing, and then a film.
I did, yeah. So I'm going to start with the season 2 of Paradise.
Okay.
It's a TV show that is on Hulu, and it is phenomenal. The first season was a real hook. Basically it follows a character who is the Secret Service agent who is assigned to the President of the United States. Now, they are played by Sterling Brown plays Agent Xavier Collins, and Sterling Brown is becoming one of my favorite actors. I really like this guy. He's kind of a nobody that has kind of pushed his way to the top of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the president is actually played by James Marsden in a really great role for him.
I have seen the entire first season, but I have not seen any of the second.
So basically it sets it up that the president gets murdered, and it's a whodunit for who killed the president. There's a lot of key players, but you're kind of getting this eerie feeling that something isn't correct. Like, this doesn't look like the White House that the president's in, but you kind of don't think about it. And then you start to realize that the mayor of this town is in touch with the president, and it's not Washington, D.C. And there's a small town feel to what's going on, and you don't really kind of get what's going on because you're so sucked in to what's going on with this murder mystery and him being interrogated because he was the last person to see it, and finding out that other people were involved and that there was an affair going on, and all these other kind of elements are being pushed on you until you realize that they're living in an underground city buried under Denver, under the Denver airport, because there's been a cataclysmic event that they prepared for and had basically who's who essential lottery to build a society to hold them underneath, and they built this entire city based off of this one lady's extreme wealth, and she basically runs it. And
It's very Fallout vibes, like
right,
just
exactly.
conceptually
And so-
speaking. Yeah.
That
but then the
sounds like-
wheels start falling off because of this murder and because of people exposing what's actually going on down here, and that there may actually be stuff going on outside that they haven't really explored, including
outside the vault.
yeah, outside the vault, and basically including the fact that the main Agent Xavier's wife, who did not make the plane flight, him and his kids did, but the wife did not. She was in Atlanta, and finds out she's actually alive. And so he breaks all the rules and breaks down the door and goes searching for her in a plane. And the whole second season is basically outside. It's a combination of in the aftermath of him kind of breaking down the societal control inside the walls, and then his adventures of trying to find his wife outside of the walls and meeting with a bunch of people who are resistance fighters that have maybe something going on, an understanding of what's going on inside the walls, that they shouldn't have that type of information. And then also him, like a whole lot of it is set at Elvis's house that has strangely that a girl has occupied, and it's all at Graceland. Yeah. And she was like, well, she was a Graceland tour guide. And when the calamity happened, and she just hunkered down there, and he ends up befriending her and then having kind of to carry on her journey, and then find his wife and try to get everybody all back to the bunker in under the hill in Colorado. And of course, truths are revealed and things are being, people are stabbing each other in the back. You're finding out backstories on people and what's going on. It was a brilliant second season that ends up doing what the first season does and twisting the whole thing on its head. And now with this one, you get a twist of the concept of maybe potential time travel is happening. And so, like, but the writing is brilliant. It's stitched together really, really neatly. A lot of these shows, like Lost and all these other shows, kind of felt loose, and like you're trying to, there's all of these different options that they're going to try to write in themselves into, right? And they leave some behind. This feels a lot like they already have it all structured and planned as to where this story is headed.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that with seasons 3 and 4 and 5, or however many we get, that we get the same type of continuity that season 2 seems to be leading us down. I really enjoyed season 2. I wasn't sure if I was going to, because oftentimes the sophomore season of a show, they're trying to find their wheels.
Flies off the rails.
Trying to find, and it doesn't work. But not in this case. In this case, I was very, very happy with season 2, and it made me very much looking forward to season 3.
I've long understood that there are like walking corridors in some complexes of Area 51, and then adjacent corridors also in Area 51 that are capable of resetting time by several minutes. So,
Oh yeah,
I don't know where that would have popped up in my life elsewhere, but no. So how many megs you got on this season?
On this season, man, I'm gonna give it 8.5 megs.
Okay.
I think there was a couple of spots that on the toothy end. I think there was a couple of spots where it kind of they maybe went into a little too much exposition on certain characters that I didn't really care about.
Sure.
But overall, it was pretty streamlined and very entertaining.
Nice.
I think that the writing is superb. I think that they're really steering it in a direction that is like makes sense. And my suspension of disbelief, like it's a realistic look at kind of what a cataclysmic event would do
Yeah.
in the United States without it being too sci-fi, but at the same time giving you just enough of that kind of sci-fi mysticism sprinkled over the top of it that it keeps you kind of like, ooh, so I absolutely am really, really loving this show, and hope to see it last. I don't want it to jump the shark at all. So if it gave me 5 seasons,
Mhm.
I'd be stoked. If it gives me anything past that, I think they're going to run out of material.
Yeah.
And so I think it has a shelf life, but I don't really know exactly what that is. That'll probably be more determined after a 3rd season. But if you want something fun and entertaining to watch, start at season 1 and rock on through it and go to season 2, and I think you'll be anticipating season 3 as much as I am.
Nice.
So, but yeah,
Awesome recommendation. Thank you. I always
8.5
need something new to
megs.
watch. 8.5. Woo!
Yeah. Now, the next one was a movie that got recommended to me by a dear friend of mine, my buddy Zach,
Mhm.
who was my shop manager for a while, but he left to go pursue his teaching career. And God bless him, he just had his first child.
Nice.
So
Congratulations.
that's pretty cool. Yeah. So him and his wife. But we have very similar senses of humor and movie and music tastes, and so we always share like movie recommendations back and forth. And I hadn't heard from him in a while because he's been down with being a dad. So but he hit me up out of the blue and he goes, if you haven't seen the new movie on Netflix called Thrash, watch it immediately. It's so ridiculous, it's good. And I went, okay. And I put it off for a little while because I was doing a bunch of other things and I hadn't dedicated the time to do it. And I finally did the other day. And it's, I think, the first time since we started this episode or this segment, which is what the segment is named after for the Megs, that I have reviewed a shark movie.
Yeah.
And this is a shark movie. And basically set off of the coast of such and such state, whether it be one of the Carolinas or Texas or whatever. It says coastal town.
Article A, coastal town is our setting.
There's a Category 5 hurricane that is coming and approaching all the news, and everybody's getting evacuated to come take out this tiny little town. I think it's called like Annieville or something like that. And it follows along the story of a couple of characters, one of them being a girl whose mother has died. Her father, she's a high school girl, and she's suffering from PTSD from the death of her parents, but she lives alone in the house. She still goes to school, but she's kind of barricaded herself in and does not, and it has kind of agoraphobic kind of nature to her. She has panic attacks if she goes out of the house. And her uncle, who's played by why he's in this, I have no idea, but the Jamon Hunso, the African guy who's like, who was in Gladiator and a lot of other movies. He's been in like Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff. He's like really awesome actor. He plays her uncle, who happens to be a deep sea shark zoologist guy, scientist guy, right? So, and just happens to be his job. So, and he checks in on her, and when he's not living on the boat, he lives at the house with her and is kind of taking guardianship over her. And then it also follows a girl who works at a meat packing plant, I don't know. They literally, and this didn't make any sense to me, but they literally have tankers that say meat on the side of it, and so there's tankers full of meat.
Yeah,
that didn't make any sense.
I mean, Gates lab,
right? Coastal Townsville.
Yeah,
meatpacking district. Got it.
And she's like 25 months pregnant. She's bursting at the seams,
Yeah.
about ready to give birth, and she's on the phone with her mom trying to get. She's working late to the last minute because that's what they do in small town America, right?
Yeah.
So, and the hurricane's coming, and her mom's like, "You got to get out of there! You got to get out of there!" And she's like, "I'm going, Mom," and the roads get closed off, right? And she can't get out of town, and she starts to panic. And
I feel some
then-
plot devices coming. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So then basically the flood hits.
Yeah.
And it is a wall of ocean that takes over the entire basically streets of the town. And in a final destination level sequence of events, like the guy who's driving the big meat rig is trying to help the pregnant girl whose car gets stuck in a bunch of debris.
Yeah, just a good
And-
Samaritan from Meat Co.
Right.
Yeah.
And the truck is blocking it, but now it's leaking blood from the meat truck
Why not?
into
Sure.
the water.
And that's what
and-
sharks love more than anything.
Right. Well, and Uncle out on the boat was like, "What is this?" Like before, he's like, "There's this really giant school of bull sharks that seem to be an anomaly in this area. It's very odd." And this big pregnant great white
Yeah.
that we've been tracking for a
They're
while is
wildly
also
interested in
near.
your location for reasons that remain unclear. Yeah.
Right. So then of course, this gigantic school of bull sharks
Sure.
swarm this town, right?
Sure.
As the rains keep flooding.
Yes.
So introvert girl has to save pregnant girl. So a series of other people dying gets her into their house, right? But that house is old, so it's collapsing at the same time the water is rising at a slow pace. So they're all upstairs, and she's about ready to give. Oh, dude, the scenes in this movie are off the charts.
This
We're
is
also
great.
following another group, which is a group of foster kids in their teens. One of them's a young one, and then the other two are in their teens. And with these horrible redneck, Trump voting, racist, abusive couple that doesn't feed them and keeps the freezer in the basement locked with all their guns, next to all their guns, with all the steaks in it that they eat and won't feed the kids, right? Just asking to be eaten by sharks, right? And it's their fight for survival from not only the sharks and hopping from furniture to furniture and trying to stay above the water line, but also from the abusive
Yeah.
parents,
Because
right?
if only
So-
they'd voted differently and were more educated and all that.
That would make them
yeah.
better. Yeah.
Now,
Right,
I
exactly.
imagine the runtime on this is what, 95 minutes? So there's like,
Oh yeah,
it just starts and then just goes and goes and goes through all this bullshit.
it is an hour and
Watch.
26 minutes.
There you go.
So it's
I-
under 90 minutes.
I
right?
love this. Yeah.
So now the scene that
That was a
There's some
wild
pretty
guess
great
too.
scenes.
I've just seen variants of this movie my whole life. So yeah.
there's
Yeah.
some really great scenes, and the cinematography on this and the special effects of the sharks are actually really good. They did
Okay.
a really good job with the shark kills, the shark bites,
Yeah.
them swimming around under the water, seeing it from rooftops. Like they did a really good job with that.
Somebody had to
And
make Jaws meets Final Destination meets Jurassic Park though.
exactly, yeah. And so and it is, predictable who's going to get eaten and who not.
Yeah.
But as the tension builds as the water rises and the sharks get closer to everybody, and they do a really good job of kind of like keeping the pace going. You don't ever like get bored, or they don't have like sit down talks, but there is a scene when the introvert girl has to be a hero and leave the pregnant girl behind to go do something. I can't even remember what she does, but she's like has to go out into the water, and she creates these, because apparently she's brilliant, and she creates these like plastic floating bags with like tickers in them so that it will distract the sharks by the vibrations, right?
Okay.
So she does that, Well, she's trying to achieve something else. She's trying to get something. I can't remember what it was.
It's
It
a
doesn't really matter.
sandworm thumper, but for sharks and water.
Exactly.
I got you. Yeah,
Right. So,
this is great.
But in
Learning to
the
ride the
meantime-
shark.
in the meantime, pregnant girl is laying on the bed upstairs, and the water, because the house is lowering and the water is going up, they're in second floor, but the water has gotten to the point where the bed is now floating.
No, why not? Yeah.
And so at that point is when she decides, or she has to give birth. So the baby's coming, right? And she is on this floating bed, like right, and with the ceiling right above her, and she's holding on to the ceiling, laying on this bed while she's like screaming and like crowning, and the baby's about to come out. And then the whole house collapses
Sure.
into the water, and she manages to get through the debris swimming as she gives birth underwater.
Sure.
The baby, she pulls out from underwater her umbilical cord. She takes like a sharp piece of wood or something and cuts the umbilical cord and lays the baby on a floating piece of board or debris or something, like a door.
Yeah.
And goes, hold on, mom's got to beat a shark's ass.
Full
and
mom
takes
mode.
a
Let's
chunk
go.
of door. And the bull shark is coming at her, and she wallops this thing in the face and just goes, "Ah," and then like swims away, right? Well, they're circling. So then that's like, I won't tell you the rest, but we haven't even touched the great white. We haven't touched the uncle getting back. We haven't touched
Wow.
like, it was so like, I laughed out loud at the birthing scene and a couple of other
Yeah.
ones, but
Yeah.
it was such a preposterous, insane story that like it fits in the Meg universe.
Yeah.
It
okay.
is jet skis and spears, level of insanity. It was a blast to watch. It was a terrible movie. It was
That's great.
awful.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give it like probably 7 megs.
I love it.
because it was so bad it was good.
It's an
And it was
awesomely
one of those
bad
ones-
movie. This is a movie
Yeah.
called Thrash. You can watch it on Netflix.
Yes.
Okay.
So
That's good.
if you know not to take it too seriously,
Yeah.
this
Like
is not
cooking,
Jaws. You're not looking at a movie that will make its imprint on cinematic history.
Sure.
You're not looking for that. You're looking for a one-time watch of an entertaining movie that you'll get some laughs, you'll get some scares, nothing makes sense, and there's some really great like people getting drugged through the water by sharks, and it's fun.
It
So,
sounds like a movie. Years ago, I posted a photograph of my television screen on Instagram, and I had moused over a movie that said Llamageddon, and it was like llamas with like lasers for eyeballs or something. And I captioned it and said, "I've reached the end of the internet." And the controlling account for Llamageddon the movie like put a heart on that post. I was just like, I win. This is great. So 7
That's
megs
great.
Thrash. You got me hooked. I definitely want to check it out.
If I had
Yep.
Netflix.
So we're going to close it out with Evil Overlord tips. We're on our 26th tip. We're helping you with a blueprint on just things to know and get better at or beware of to become an efficient evil overlord. That's how we're ending the show until we run out of tips. We have number 26 tonight. What do you got, bro?
Well, the trope often is, to the victor come the spoils,
Sure.
correct?
Yeah.
If you are winning, you're taking what you want.
Mhm.
Pillaging every culture across society, whether they be dictatorial or benevolent in any capacity, they typically, depending on the scale of where your moral compass lies, you tend to take the spoils of war.
Sure.
Now that being said, oftentimes some of those spoils involve young mistresses
Mhm.
in that regard of that the
Conan the
women
Barbarian
become the-
mentions something about the lamentations of their women and stuff. Yeah.
That is correct.
I remember
yes.
this. Yeah.
So that being said, if you want to do it right,
Yeah.
there's a right way to do it. And we often make mistakes because we stop thinking
Mhm.
and we start acting upon our more base human nature. And that
Fair
can
assessment
be
when women are involved. Yeah.
right. And so we tend to forego our better nature when those things are presented. So in that particular case, keep this credo in mind,
Sure.
because like no matter how attractive certain members of the rebellion are,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably someone just as attractive who is not desperate to kill me.
That's facts. Yeah. Someone's out
Right?
there. Sure.
Therefore, I will think twice before ordering a prisoner sent to my bedchamber.
It's great
You are
news.
asking for assassination. You are asking for somebody to slip them a hat pin,
Yeah.
or slip them some poison, or whatever the case may be. You're inviting that when there's just as good of options on people who actually like you and want you to be in
Cast
the
a
position
wide
you're in.
net. Yeah.
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 Don't fall for the doe-eyed, rebellion princess. Like, don't fall for her. Like, let her be a part of the hammer that you have slammed down on their community.
Yeah.
Sorry, that bloodline ends with you. You will not carry my love child. You will not come back and create a comeback story with the son that you bore after you escaped.
Yeah.
No, none of those scenarios are going to happen, because I've put you in a prison cell and then you went to execution the next morning. This scenario is, this person likes me and I'm actually going to be able to not worry about such things when the base nature of my humanity takes a leave of absence from my dictatorial regime. Everybody needs a little R&R, right? So just choose your R&R wisely.
There you
is
go.
all I'm saying. So
I
and
love
that
it.
is the Overlord number 26.
Overlord tips.
Dig it.
Well,
So-
Paul, I can't thank you enough for coming back. Hopefully we can make next
Hey,
week
thanks for having
happen.
me.
This has been
Dude, that was-
I'll work on it.
an Uber
Literally, I'll
treat,
work on
man.
Yeah, it's great having you here, man. That was a really great conspiracy corner. I had a
Thank
blast with that, and your contributions to the other topics were phenomenal too. Because
Happy to help.
I like to pick your brain. You're in the mess of it too. You're like in the middle of a lot of the stuff that's going on in Washington as a business owner, as a homeowner.
It's a shit blizzard, Randy. It really
So
is.
we like to get your perspective on that. So
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep. All right, friends. Well, we will be back next time for Lucky I'm Angel and for Paul I'm Angel. Have a good night.